What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's D.H. Thorne here with my good friend, the Flesh Priest, acting as my MC slash organizer slash, my partner in crime in these videos. And welcome.
I'm your hype man, dog.
You're my hype man. Yeah, you're like my Ed McMahon, but you're cooler because you don't just go, oh, ho, 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 oh. I guess I'm dating myself.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Let's get my sound check. Sound check is good. All right. So hello, everybody. Let's see who's here. We got Lisa McDaniel. I don't know if I've seen you before, but if I have and I forgot you, please forgive me. Enlightened One is here. Dovahkiin is here. JM Draco. Tatum is here. Steroid Maximus Sky is here. The Angry Finger is here. Some dude named Yepson with blue lettering on his name. I don't know why he got that. I think we should have a mod revoke, whatever that is. The Angry Finger we saw. Camila's Random. I think some of you know who Camila's Random is. And Jennifer Vatza, what's up, sweetie? Good to see you again. Glad to have you on. Last week, if you guys didn't check it out, last week I had Jennifer Vatza on. We had this really good show about herbals and stuff like that. She's a good person. She's a great lady. She's got some good stuff. Yeah, so if I miss anybody, we got Arachnos, and who else is filtering in? Who did we miss? Did we miss anybody? I think I got everybody.
Sound off in the chat.
Lolan Scene, what's up, buddy? All right, so here we are, and tonight we didn't really have a plan. I kind of figured, it's kind of like Labor Day week, and my views on my channel weren't as high this week, and so I figured I'd take it easy, and I did a reading of Nyarlathotep. I like Nyarlathotep because you're supposed to say Hotep, it's Amenhotep, so Nyarlathotep. That's why I say it that way.
Sounds like a real funky dance.
Doesn't it? Do the Nyarlathotep.
The craze sweeping the nation, the Nyarlathotep.
The craze sweeping the nation is actually rather fitting, considering the short story of Nyarlathotep is about a Tesla-like figure who is traveling the world, spreading his nightmarish, knowledge, and blowing people's minds and causing people to go crazy. So, yes, the craze sweeping the nation does kind of make sense, whether we realize it or not. So for those of you who haven't watched it, you may want to give that a shot. It's my first ever effort at doing a reading of any kind of literature, and I made a few mistakes that I caught, but it was fun. I'll probably do it again at some point. Maybe Flesh Priest would like to join in as one of the characters and do some of the voiceovers as well. That might be fun.
Oh, I could do that.
That'd be cool. All right, let's see. So in case you guys didn't tune in, I had that. I also, this morning, for me it was yesterday because I slept all day. I actually only woke up like 3 hours ago. This morning I released a video that to me was rather important, and I think it helped a bunch of people already. That was a very simple meditative method for aligning, energizing, and making your chakra more effective and more aligned. It's a very simple technique. And you can utilize spirits like Lucifer to guide you in doing that. So if you haven't watched that video, put that on your to-do list. It's one of my better ones. And at the very end of the video, I actually demonstrate a little parlor trick where I put out a candle with a little swipe of my hand. It looks easier than it is. I've had people sending me videos of them trying it, and it's not as easy as it looks. But so what's going on? Steroid Maximus.
Hope everybody is having a lovely apocalypse. Right back at you, dude.
Fuck yeah. Every moment of every day is a mini apocalypse, and just get used to it because that's what it is. And I had been going through, a lot of you probably noticed, I've been going through some attachment issues the last couple of weeks with all the insanity going on in the world. You start paying too much attention to it, and you let it get to you. You have to remember that the algorithms of social media are designed to influence you, and they are trying to get everybody upset and at each other's throats. And they wouldn't call it a test of your non-attachment if it was easy, right? So I needed that sanctuary space. I needed that time meditation to help out, and it's not good nor bad. It is what it is, and we just have to deal with it. So what have you been up to, Flesh Priest? What have you been working a lot this week? What have you been doing?
Oh, yeah, for me, it's just been nothing but working. I'm hoping to actually have a little bit of time this weekend to try working with King Paimon or something, but no, right now it is just wood, Wood all the time. Wood nonstop.
You know, it's really fun because, you know, King Paimon is another spirit that is great with artisans, creative people, artists. You would also probably get along well with President Malphas because of your woodworking talents. One of the things President Malphas is, you know, sort of inspirer
I wasn't
of,
talking about lumber.
Oh, come on, guys. Let's keep this PG-45 here. Come on. This is a little too old for my blood. But yeah, no, he's very good with bringing artisans together and inspiring them for projects and things. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, so what do we got? We got any good questions lined up today?
So I actually, some of you know this because I've talked about it before. I do my damnedest to keep a backlog of all the questions which we don't get to answer in all the videos. So I thought this would be a nice little housekeeping day for me on the side too, and clear away some of these ones that have been just sitting there begging to be answered. So, and if you have any questions you want to hear discussed tonight, just feel free to leave it in the chat.
I see Sky's asking one about mentorship. Maybe we'll start there and then we'll go to the old ones because that is kind of a pressing concern. So yeah, mentorship I do offer. It is I sort of took a. Yeah,
if I could get in real quick before you go, I'm going to be having a conversation with Mr. DH tonight. There's no guest to take some of the reins off, so go ahead and tag me if you have a question, because otherwise I might not catch it.
Yeah,
I am at Yepsen.
Yeah, at Yepsen or me, preferably Yepsen. He's more likely to see it because he's, I don't know. I've kind of like I've passed the buck on to you, dude. You're like my chat eyeballs now. Plus, it's like all the way over there for me. Like I see things, and it's like what? Like I feel like Mr. Magoo. Like what?
Yeah, if you see me looking around like this too, it's dual monitors. I'm going back and forth from reading, looking at DH.
And I got two too, but this is my drawing tablet over here, and I have to turn like into another dimension to just look at things, and so I keep it all on the main screen. So, all right. So yeah, mentorship. I took a little bit of a break in August, and you know, basically, I didn't advertise it in August, and so I have a lot of openings, and that was because I needed a break from doing it, because mentorship is one of those things where I put a lot of energy into it, even though it may not sound like it. You know, 1 hour a week isn't that much, but it's an hour of my undivided attention, and we talk about a lot of stuff, and it does, you know, it kind of satisfies my own cravings for delving into topics. So I try to minimize it to a point where it's not, I'm not doing it 20 hours a week. I'm only doing it, you know, 5-6 hours a week, and I've kind of minimized it, but I do have slots open for October. So right now I'm booked for September, but I know that I'm going to have some openings in October. If you are interested in doing mentorship with me, it's basically what it boils down to is it's a lot like my consultation service, except instead of 1 hour for $100, you're getting 3 1-hour sessions for half price. So it's $150. So it's basically half price consultation, but I call it mentorship because I kind of take on the role of your magical life coach. My job is to talk to you about what your experiences in magic are, and we'll talk about all kinds of stuff. Sometimes we'll talk about politics. Sometimes we'll talk about what your day was like and how you can apply things to that. But it really depends. I can also be more of a teacher if you wish. We can go through Become the Maelstrom or Shadownomicon, or even my new book, The Infernal Vampire Handbook. We can go through that, and you can ask me questions if you have concerns, if you're not sure you're doing it right. Of course, we have to get along. We have to work well together. I am selective about who I give my energy and time to, because it's been difficult as I've gotten more popular to kind of put a friendly wall, if that makes sense, between myself and all of the people who want to send me paragraph upon paragraph of their life story, thinking that I've got, you know, nothing else that I have to do all day. And I do. You know? So I'll look on my Facebook and I'll go, I'd love to respond, but I can't. You know, I can't read all of this and then give you a deep answer because, well, not for free, and I've got to be selective, you know. But I do try to help people. I am not a closed door guy. My door is open to people approaching me. It's just people take that too far, and I kind of had to deal with that this week, where they'll message me with a question, and then I won't respond. I'll look at it. I don't have time to respond to, you saw something when you were 6, you just had a car accident last week, is there a demon chasing you, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work that way, and I can't go through all of that, do a big, deep reading on you, figure out what your story is, and then give you sagely advice just because you sent me a friend request. It doesn't work that way. So, but I am there to be interacted with. I don't want to seem like I'm on some kind of tower where you can't get to me. It's just, I can't always respond. And then sometimes when I don't respond, people will give me an attitude. Oh, well, I guess you're not as open as I thought you were. I'm not open enough to handle 10 or 12 of you a day. It's what it is. I just don't have the time.
You're a busy guy. I mean, fuck, sometimes when I send you a message like, dude, you want to jump on Wildlands later or something? Like, you won't get back to me about that immediately. You got shit going on.
Except I'm a pain in your butt, though. I message you all the time, like, are we playing tonight? So it's kind of like, you get how I feel because I do it to you. But that's the thing. That's my social life. That's my private time, and I make time for that. Like, I go, Fridays is game night. Wednesdays is game night. Thursdays is stream night. Tuesdays my mother's night. I have these time blocks set up, and I've got to stick to them. Otherwise, it all falls apart, right? It all falls apart. So I do mentorships. They are scheduled for the afternoons in the Eastern time zone, generally between 2 and 5 p.m. And you pick an hour time slot once per week. You get 3 of those a month, and then there's a makeup session at the end of the month in case you missed one. And if it's a month where it would be like a 5-week month, like some weeks there's like 5 Mondays, for example, I will usually organize something so that we have some kind of an extra little hangout, just for fun. That way, especially if you're coming back the next month, you don't have like a 2-week break. So I try to make it fun, right? I try to keep it so that it's not ridiculous, but it's, yeah.
Jennifer actually just commented. She said that she totally gets what you're talking about. She gets a lot of messages and friend requests. We have lives and are mostly human. We can't function 24/7 doing this.
No, it is, and I do eat and sleep and breathe this subject for the most part. In fact, like, you probably find it interesting because I've compartmentalized a lot of things over the years where I didn't talk about this when we were first friends. It never came up. And even now you have to broach the subject. I don't push it on you. And it's because this has always been something I've been very into. But you have to have a balance between, you have to have the ability to see the world in a as above and a so below way at the same time, and compartmentalize a little bit so that you can go through your day. Sometimes you need to just decompress your higher thoughts and just play a video game or whatever, right? You got to do that. Or just go to a hard day's work and shape wood all day. I mean, it's you got to do that. And because this is now my day job, higher thinking is part of my day job now, and so that means my fun has to be even more kind of mindless, if that makes sense. It has to be even more just laid back. So I hope you guys understand. Most people do.
A quick little addendum to that. I believe it was Sky asked the original question. He also asked, are there certain preliminary skills required?
Oh, for the mentorship? No. It's not set up for that. It's basically, like I said, it's half price consult because they're pre-scheduled for a whole month straight. So you're buying an hour of my time, and you get to decide, up to a point, of course, what the nature of our interaction is. If you want to go through my book step by step and have me available to answer your questions and just talk to you every week about it, then that's what we'll do. And we'll use my books as a lesson plan and go through it that way. So if you're a complete and utter beginner, pick up Become the Maelstrom, and we'll go through that. And you can, of course, incorporate whatever other magical styles that you like. If I'm familiar with it, I'll help you. If I'm not, I won't. Obviously, if I've never used it, I won't. Like, if you're saying I'm going to use Kabbalah, I'm going to go, I don't know anything about it really, except for the surface level of it. You're on your own, but I will try to help you with my perspective of it, and so on. So I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt and say I know about it when I don't. But I focus mainly on my system and style, which is based loosely on, Advaita Vedanta, Neoplatonism, and other monist esoteric metaphysical philosophies. So in case you're wondering. If you want to read up on those subjects, that wouldn't hurt, but you don't have to. It would definitely help, because if you tune into my conversations, I bring up almost constantly the idea that all is one, and these kinds of ideas that a lot of other occultists know, but they kind of gloss over, because what is interesting to people, it seems, is the flourishes on top of that truth. You know, I was having a conversation with somebody this morning who messaged me because they loved my chakra video that I put out this morning. They loved it, and they thought it was really helpful. And I said, you know, it's kind of sad though, because some of my best work people don't watch. They're not interested in some of that stuff. They want to hear the product of that work, but they don't want to do the work, and they don't want to have the experiences themselves, I guess. You know, they don't want to actually do it. And I'm not one of these people that says you have to have a practice where you go every day and do some hard, you know, practice, right? That's not what I'm about. You can, and you will gain from that, but you can make something a job and then it doesn't have any power anymore, right? It just becomes another thing you do. So what I'm saying is that a lot of people will follow me, and everybody says your demon in reviews are the ones I like the best. Those are my favorite videos. And I guess it's because it's kind of like, maybe they see me almost as like grandpa telling a story, I guess. And it's fun, it's interesting, and it helps you relate to the spirit. Sometimes maybe for some of you it validates your experiences, or maybe validates my own authority on the subject, because you can say, I had that experience, he knows what he's talking about. So I get it. That's one of the reasons why I keep doing them. But I also have that I'm not a Pokemaster mentality. I'm not there to master all the Pokemon. I'm not there to give you the gnosis. I'm there to show you how to get it yourself. That's my Luciferian mentality. I don't want to be your guru. I'm trying to show you that you're your own guru, and I'm my own guru. So if I seem like I'm advanced in some way, it's only because a part of you is already there, and you need someone outside of your own self-identified experience to validate that for you. And that's why you think what I'm saying is special. It's not because it's special. This is stuff that's been said since time immemorial. It's just I've figured out maybe a syntax that appeals to people on the left-hand path, and that's that. So it doesn't mean that I've invented anything or found anything special. So
I could say on the demon in review, I mean, I certainly don't think it would be very genuine for the same Pokemon analogy you used if you just did a demon in review of the entire Goetia. But I do enjoy the videos. I look at them as kind of, almost kind of like a Amazon review would not be accurate or a very kindly thing to say. But it's nice because it's like, you know, listening to King Paimon or President Malphus. Like, oh, that gets me kind of hype. I'm kind of interested in doing this now. Okay.
You know, I'm a very convincing salesman from personal activities about video games. It's like, you know, I tend to be, do it. And you know, it's generally a selfish reason because I want to have somebody to play with. That's why I'm like, here, play this game. You're going to love it. But, you know, with this stuff, I'm less pressuring, and it's more, this is what I experienced, and I hope that you find it useful. But I'm also cautious not to be I don't like to say too much. And this is for a couple of reasons. One is that I'm not one of these demonolators who has a daily devotion to these spirits, who spends every day in ritual with them and has reams and reams and reams of notes of strange, gnosis. Rather, I invoke them a few times or evoke them. I put them to a task. I put myself to a task, put each other to a task. I get to know them. I understand who and what they are, and then I leave the door open for them to work in my life, and then whenever they come to me, they come to me. And occasionally I will do ritual to them just to give them offering or to ask them for something special or whatever. So I'm not trying to create a religion for myself, right? I'm not trying to create I have to work with this spirit. Just like I don't feel like I have to talk to anybody in person all the time. I do have a need to have relationships, and, you know, I have to talk to you, Flesh Priest, and now E.A. Quetting and J.D. Temple and some of these other people, my wife, obviously. But
how that one was kicked in right at the end.
Well, she's kind of just like, I have to. No, I'm just kidding. Don't kill me, honey. You're going to see like this whole curtain just like move, and I'm going to go like get knocked out. but no, for real. I mean, and she's like, I barely consider that because she's like the other half of my life. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, like I couldn't, that saying like I'm not gonna spend time with her would be like saying I'm not gonna spend time with my hand. It's like ridiculous. Wait, that came out wrong. But you know what I'm saying. It'd be like saying I'm not gonna spend time with my own self. It's, you know, she's part of my life, and it's like, and she knows because she works a regular job still, and my hours are weird, and I'm alone. So, you know, I'm up from 2 in the afternoon, 1 in the afternoon till 6, 7, 8 in the morning. So she leaves for work at 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. She gets home at 5 or 6. So we only have about 4 or 5 hours together every day, which I guess is a lot, but I'm alone the rest of the time completely. I don't have an office. I don't have other people to talk to. I don't have, you know, if I don't go for a walk, I don't even see the sky. You know, it's like I live in a cave. I'm kind of like a hermit already. And so I value the friendships I have, and you know, I keep it important to me to make them sacred, you know. And when I work with them, I don't try to have daily experiences with them. I want to have meaningful experiences. I want to keep them sacred. I want to say, you know, if I see you in my mind and we have a conversation, it's for the big stuff. It's for the biggest stuff possible, because otherwise it can get kind of it can get mundane, right? If you do this every day, it gets mundane. You're like, oh, that's just King Paimon again. And he stops being a unique and powerful character in my life.
You just meet him at the water cooler. Just, yeah, so you hear about Janet from accounting? Yeah, what a bitch.
Exactly. And you know, you don't want to get to that point. You do want to invoke, you do want to install that spirit's energy into yourself. I mean, you have to recognize that each one of these beings, there's kind of some confusion. This is something I mean to correct in my own outreach a little bit as time goes on. Maybe get it a little bit more accurate, maybe a little bit more concise. There's a superstitious, dogmatic side of demonolatry. There is a completely atheistic, I mean, skeptical atheistic, which is a little harder than I go, side of spiritual practice. And then there is somewhere in the middle, and like an agnostic side, I guess you could say. Now, the superstitious, dogmatic side says the gods are real, and they had a hand in the creation of the universe, and all of the myths are, or one set of the myths is true, and the other ones are not, whatever. They take a religious view of it, I guess you could say. And they really believe that these spirits are their gods. You know, it's actually, even on the left-hand path, you get people who don't realize what the left-hand path is supposed to mean, and they actually practice a form of right-hand path slavery towards other deities other than the Christian one. And some people get offended when I tell them that. They don't like to hear that. Nobody likes to hear that they're a slave, especially when they hear that they're doing it to themselves. But I do get flack for that. Then there's people who believe that the spirits that we talk to do not exist on any level, that they are literally just imaginary friends that we talk to because they're useful to us, but they represent ideas, and those ideas are useful. Then there's people who are more in the middle, and where I exactly fall in that spectrum is I lean towards the people who say that they're ideas, but I also believe that those ideas are alive. I believe that those ideas are conscious. I believe that those spiritual things that we are connecting with, behind the mask of King Paimon, there's an archetypal consciousness that is alive, just like you are. So you're an archetypal consciousness. You just may not realize it. You represent to somebody an archetype of some sort, and you have a tendency to craft a personality and an expression that is archetypal. What the archetype is may or may not be that big an archetype. Like, you may not be the hero or the sage or whatever. Maybe you're Yepsen the Flesh Priest. Maybe you're D.H. Thorne, the guy with a YouTube channel, right? But these are archetypes, and we inhabit these archetypes. The problem is people will begin to confuse the archetype, the mask for the archetype, for the consciousness behind the archetype. So, yes, and I see that, Rouse. Crowley did believe that 72 chthonic spirits were aspects of yourself. To a degree, I agree with that assessment, but I would also say, don't mistake them for being just you. You are creating the mask. I'll put it to you another way. I've worked with a spirit many times, And I know I'm not alone in the room when they get there. But by the same token, I don't mistake the spirit that I'm talking to for what I'm talking about. In other words, I don't mistake, when I talk to King Paimon, I know that that is a mask for something. I know that that is almost like an alien holding up a puppet and going blah, 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 so you have something you can relate to. But that doesn't mean that I would worship that being as a god. Rather, since I am a non-dualist, I recognize that all things are myself, and I am in all things. I recognize that we all share the same divinity. So, in a manner of speaking, see, there's two different ways to understand what Crowley said. There's two ways to understand non-dualism. One of them is wrong. but it's the one that most people, because they don't really understand it, they think. When people hear Crowley believed the 72 chthonic spirits were an aspect of yourself, they think that what that means is that they are limited to each one of us individually and exist only that way. In other words, as if your 72 chthonic spirits are somehow simply just figments of your imagination. I think that's the right linguistics to use. It's a little tough to try to... This is the hard part, is trying to express what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So when we say, for example, I have an imaginary friend. Well, you made it up. And you've kind of crafted it in your own imagination. Now, that doesn't mean some other mind won't occupy it and start to take over your experience of it. But at least initially, if you say, I've got a pet rabbit that's not real and it bounces around and it talks to me, and it's literally just your imagination, okay, it doesn't exist in the universal sense. It's a subjective reality for you. It's a tulpa, basically. But there's another layer when we say they are aspects of yourself. There is the greater self. There is the Tattvamasi self that you are. Now, for those who don't know, Tattvamasi means this thou art, or some other way of saying it. It's basically saying you are all of this. This is what you are. All of this is you. So when you recognize that you are everything, that means the flesh priest is me too. So that means Yepsen, the flesh priest, is an aspect of myself as well. And I'm an aspect of him. Now, how does that work? This is where it gets hard. This is where monks spend years staring at a wall, just going, trying to understand what that means. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to intellectually understand what that means, because most of you listening to me right now have not had that experience of ego disillusionment. You haven't had that moment of going, I am everything. Some of you have. Some of you definitely have. Some of you come to me and be like, this is this and that's that, and you guys get it. You guys are the wizards, as Deepak Chopra would say. You guys already get it. You're here just to be entertained by hearing someone else talk about it. But some of you guys need to have that experience to understand what I'm saying. You have to understand that you create your entire subjective reality based on a set of input and output that kind of reflects. You're reflecting the input that you get from yourself. It's kind of hard to explain because, again, there's no language that we've invented that properly explains this. But when we split this apart and we say, my experience is purely subjective, but the objective world is real, that's the most accurate statement. Your subjective reality is the only true reality. The objective reality is what we agree upon between all of our subjective truths. So what you're experiencing right now when you're listening to me exists nowhere else in the universe except in your own experience. When you talk to me, when you listen to my voice, the thing you're experiencing is completely unique to you. Nobody else, alive or dead, past, present, or future, will ever experience me the way you do. Not even someone sitting a millimeter away from your face, just boop, both looking in even if we're going just totally rational, you could say Unless they occupy the exact same point in space and time, they can't have the same experience. That's true. But I'm taking this to an even more different level. Your experience is so subjective, and I can prove this to you very easily. Flesh Priest and I both used some similar color schemes tonight. I have a lot of blue going on. The background has that indigo blue, purple background. Okay, we all agree that what we're seeing on the screen is some shade of blue, right? Well, it was until you got smartass with it. So we all have some kind of shade of blue on our screen, or purplish blue, right? What exactly is that color? How do you know that what you're looking at on the screen right now looks exactly the same to everybody who's watching? We can all agree it's the same color because we're all receiving the same input, but our subjective experience of that input is going to be different for each one of us. Another way to put it is, I can tell you that blue occupies a wavelength of what, 440 hertz on the electromagnetic spectrum? Maybe somebody could look it up, but I think it's something like that. So I could say to a scientist, I see 440 hertz frequency. And they'll say, oh, you see the color blue? And I'll say, yes. And they'll say, that's great. And I'll say, how do you describe the color blue, though? Can you describe the color blue so that you can see it?
Can't really describe it without describing other colors. Like,
and
well,
then,
if you mix some blue and some red together, you get some purple.
But even
okay,
that
well,
doesn't
what's blue
describe
and red?
but that doesn't describe the experience of that purple at all. So all you're doing is showing it's another way of saying, somebody got it. Dragon Horror said 430 nanometers. So I was 440 hertz, so 440 nanometers is what I meant to say. 440, 430. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Good catch. So 430 nanometers. So saying 430 nanometers, this is the same thing as saying blue, is the same thing as saying mix a little bit of blue and this and that together. It's the same thing. You're not actually describing the experience of blue, because no one can relate to that. I cannot relate to the Flesh Priest's experience of blue at all. But we can share the experience of blue as an input. That's it. So when we're talking about spiritual things, we can all agree that we talked to King Paimon last night. But not one of us will agree what he looked like. And even if we do, there'll still be some differences. And even if we do, the things we agreed upon will still never really appear the same way to all of us in our minds. So our experiences are always subjective. Yes, honey, a little bit like that. Yeah, a little bit like that, definitely. Imagine, for example, you could see a color you've never seen before. What would it look like? That's another area of that question. So I'm telling you right now, from that one simple thought experiment, your entire sense of reality can crumble very quickly because it applies to every experience you've ever had. Your first kiss, the way cookies taste, the way an orgasm feels, the way it feels to be scared of the dark, what it's like to watch a TV show, the way I experience you. It's not going to be the same. It can't be the same. They're not the same. We have the same input, but our experience is always different. This is the source of the illusion of Maya. This is the source of that delusion where we think that just because we experience it and can relate it to other people, that means that's the truth, but it's not. It's not the truth. It's just a comparison. It's just a bit of dialogue. I was having a thought storm last night, and that's probably the reason why I didn't sleep too well. And I was thinking about fractals, right? And fractals are very useful because fractals are the scientific expression of as above, so below, because they repeat. They repeat a pattern. Now that pattern may change a little. You can have some variation within the pattern, but they're self-similar. That's what a fractal means. It's self-similar. But what is a fractal? Well, we have the experience of a fractal equation and the experience of a fractal output. So a fractal equation is the mathematics that is used by a computer to plot the graph that creates the cool pattern that you look at. The fractal is not the cool pattern you're looking at. The fractal is the equation. You don't see the equation. So when you go Google right now, go on YouTube and Google fractal pattern. You're going to get some cool, beautiful kaleidoscope of colors and shapes, and it's going to be all trippy, and you go, wow, that's cool. That must be the universe, man. That's cool. No, it's not. That's Maya. The reality of the universe is steps higher than that. Even the equation that defines that fractal is an illusion as well, because it's a product of that same kind of process. So what is going on? What is the seed idea? It's kind of like if you play procedurally generated video games like No Man's Sky or something. They have a seed of data, a number. Then they have a program which takes that seed and tumbles it around through its process and then outputs something that is random but makes a certain kind of sense. In a very similar way of thinking, you could say the same thing for all of reality works that way. And each of us experiences a very unique seed of reality. Its difference between you and I might only be 1,000,000 decimal points difference. Some little insignificant number, but it ends up at a long enough timeline to be quite significant. So there is that truth that within that system, there is this self-same pattern of, we'll say, an expression that translates into a holographic delusion. And that holograph delusion spawns new holograph delusions and new holograph delusions, and they can't stop themselves. But it starts with a seed, and that seed is the singularity. It's the source. It is the all that you are. You are that seed equation. Whether you want to think of it in a mathematical sense or a spiritual sense, they're all the same thing. Math is just a way of encapsulating reality. Math itself is imperfect. No matter how good it is at describing the universe, it's still just drawing lines around things that are already there. It's still just splitting up what is and making what is not real. You know, like music. You have analog music and you have digital music. And digital music sounds awesome to us, right? Some people prefer the analog still, and for good reason. But digital, it's easier to produce, it's cheaper, it's blah, 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 blah. But it's indistinguishable to the average audiophile. Like Desmond might be able to tell you because you're a freaking giant audio nerd. You love, I know you do. I know. Like,
I'm just waiting for my moment to jump in here. About to take this stream in a whole new direction.
Do it, baby, do it. Prove me right. I mean, wrong, or whatever it is. Let me heat up my Coke.
No, may take the reins back from me at some point. A lot of people say, you know, the sound of vinyl and everything is a lot nicer. A lot of people prefer it. A lot of people prefer it because of that sound you get. But really,
the noise.
Yeah, but really, that's the thing, is that tonality, what it imprints and everything, there really is no difference. What you're hearing there is just the fact of what they had to put into the medium, like recording onto a physical medium, all the noise, all the things that come along with that. There's really, like, digital just being a long string of binary, it is indistinguishable. It is the same thing. If you printed that digital right onto a vinyl, it would sound the same, with differences for mastering and everything.
Especially to the human ear. Now, I think, I think they're probably, but there is the concept that there's an analog sound and a digital version of it, and the digital breaks it up and chops it up. It digitizes it, and it's never exactly the same as what reality would be. Now, you could say exactly the same thing for any recording, right? Because recording it's a reception of something and then a translation of that, so it's never going to be one for one. But a digital recording necessarily breaks time up into intervals. And those intervals are, we'll say, smoothed out, It's kind of like a JPEG image versus something that's not a JPEG but much higher resolution. So JPEG, the way a JPEG works is it'll shrink the amount of color data that has to be shown by understanding how the human eye works and allowing pixels to be simplified so that instead of being 20 decimal points different, they only have to be 10 decimal points different, and you can kind of, the way RGB works, you don't have to have every color in the world on your screen, you just need 3, and those 3, the way they interact, will create any color. In the same sense, you can have a JPEG which can take very detailed color data, simplify it down into smaller values that is virtually indistinguishable to the average person. Some cases I can tell the difference, some cases I can't, right? If I go with a fine-tooth comb with my graphics program, I can tell. But if I don't, sometimes I can't. I don't know the difference. It looks exactly the same to my eyes sometimes. Especially when it's moving, right? You don't have time to really pick it out. So, what math does, unless you have an infinite, we'll take, pi is a perfect example of what I'm getting at. Pi is an infinite number as far as we know. We so far cannot express it to a point where it's rational. It's an irrational number. It goes on forever. You cannot define a circle without infinity, right? Not a true circle without infinity. That should tell you something. Reality can't be split up into chunks and be real. So math is a very poor, it's an analog, but that's all it is. It's an analog. It's not exact. It's not the same thing. And woe be to the skeptical scientist that thinks that reality is math. That's such a it's a useful technology, but it's a terrible philosophy. It's one of the worst philosophies you can possibly have, and it makes everything wrong.
It's how we express the things around us. Like, I can tell you from creating music that music is not what we define in Western music theory. That is not, that music is a lot more than that, especially as an electronic artist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of sounds and things in there, a lot of the in-between spaces that you cannot express easily.
Right.
To put it gracefully, with Western music notation and our way of understanding that. It's a useful way to communicate the ideas, but it is not the whole truth.
Yeah, and it never is. Your experiences aren't either. None of this is. It's all language. In a way, this is why language is so important in magic, why sounds are so important. They're all ways to interface with things. And how we speak to each other this is why people say math is everything, because you can use math to communicate almost anything. But math is never so perfect as to be infallibly accurate. I don't care what any mathematician says. You can come up with equations, though. See, equations are a little different. An equation is relationships between ideas. This can be done. You can make relationships between ideas and have them make sense. You can have, so going back to that fractal conversation, the fractal you see when you look up fractals and look at these big, beautiful, swirling shapes that are moving, and as you zoom in, they repeat and all that. That's the product of a fractal equation. The thing that comes out is a derivative of an equation. But the equation itself is pretty accurate. It's pretty perfect. One way to think of it would be this. The thought experiment. Let's pretend that our universe was the result of a fractal equation that's gone crazy. It's so big that it includes enough information in it that we can have a universe that has people and galaxies and stars and all this cool shit in it. Could the equation, could the fractal result contain the equation itself? Or could the fractal result contain an understanding of the equation? Could the fractal result be used to not just recreate the equation, but understand what made the equation? Maybe, maybe not. I sort of think so. I think that's sort of what we do as metaphysical investigators, as spiritual people, as scientists. We're trying to reverse engineer the fractal and try to figure out what the starting equation was. We thought we had it when we had like E equals MC squared. We thought we had it with this. We're always looking for the grand unifying theory, which is basically the equation that explains everything. So on a very basic level, we're all looking for the same thing. We're looking for that grand unifying equation. We're trying to figure out the equation that spawned the fractal that we experience. Non-dualists have, at least from a metaphysical perspective, they've at least found what the equation is. In other words, they've found that the equation is the source. So it's kind of like saying, we know there's an equation, is kind of what non-duality has done. We know that there's an equation. We know there's a source. We know there's a seed. We know that there is a thing from which all things are expressed. They all emanate as a fractal pattern, perhaps. This is why you have as above, so below. This is why you have this repeating pattern in everything. This is why the golden ratio matters, the Fibonacci sequence matters. This is why all of these things have weight in math. In other words, it's one of those things that metaphysics and physics both agree on, to a point that validates both very strongly. They matter to both. They have meaning to both. So I'm getting off in the weeds from what originally spawned this whole point. Like, I think I've completely lost the trail. I don't know where I was going, but I think we went somewhere more interesting right now. But what I'm trying to get at is that each one of you that's listening to this, we are part of the same seed, but we are also an expression of that seed that is both individual and part of the same fractal pattern. We are one of the infinite iterations of the singularity of prime origin, of source, of singularity, of the one, of the all. And we are each the center of our fractal awareness. Each one of us is a budding off of that same pattern. And the tiny little variations make us think that we're unique, but we're really not. We like to think we're unique because that's what the ego wants to be. But you can't be separate from everything. If you were separate from everything, you couldn't interact with anything. You know, how can you, if you're separate from anything, that means you can't interact with it. Your interaction with it is non-existent. So if I'm clapping my hands, we have this idea that the hand over here and the hand over here are coming together, and you know, they touch. Something touches. Well, on one level, that's not true. There is no matter that touches. When you clap your hands, the atoms and molecules in your hands never actually touch each other. They can't. In fact, if they could, you get what's happening in the heart of a star, which is fusion. And even then, they're not actually touching. They're just becoming in such close proximity that they're becoming part of the same system, but they're still separate little particles still. And each one of those little separate particles is made of another separate little set of particles. And each one of those can be traced back to electromagnetic radiation, electromagnetic waves, to the field of EM. So when I clap my hands, nothing ever touches. But that's not because they're always separate. It's because they're already the same thing. And what we think should be touching are the crests of two waves. We think that they should be touching, right? We think that the crests of these waves are what touches. But they don't. They repel each other when they get too close. They stop each other. It's kind of a mindfuck. It's a paradox, but a thing that is one thing cannot touch itself. It is itself. In other words, you can't bring it any closer together than it already is what I'm getting at. It's already as close together as it gets. So separation's an illusion. All of it's an illusion. And this is why I have to play video games. Because when you live in this space all the time, it can be hard to go to the store and buy donuts or something, because you go, oh, none of this is fucking real. You know, you can get,
yeah, the cashier asks you, like, so what's on your mind? You don't want to answer that honestly. That's to rupture some membranes up in their head.
I'm very much, not always, but very much that meme where the girl is looking at her husband late at night and he's sitting there with his eyes open. She's like, bitch, she's thinking about him right now, or her right now, whatever. And he's like, well, I got to fix the carburetor on my car. Well, mine looks like this. That's what mine looks like. I'm not thinking about other women.
The ever-expansive fractal.
I would like to go back to the donuts comment, because Angry Finger says, but donuts. And let me actually round that. Let me do the home run and say, yes, and that is the point, is the donuts. That is the point of all of this. So we, as that original equation, spawned this entire fractal pattern of reality just so we could have the experience of donuts or a good fart. I love making it base and disgusting when I'm talking about divinity, because it throws people off. Because people have this such highbrow idea of what divinity should be. Oh, it's all peace and love and light. Yeah, it's farts too. It's murderers. It's rapists. It's the most disgusting thing you can imagine.
It's about experiencing all of it.
It's yes, the whole thing, the whole fucking thing. Stick your nose deep inside and take a whiff. That's what it is. So.
Oh, there's going to be some isolated audio from this episode. I already know it.
I know. I shouldn't just do them with you, because that's what happens. You inspire the goofy guy.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, this has been like, I hate to sound ungrateful, but this has been a slow week on my YouTube channel, because I think people must be on vacation or something for Labor Day. Like, last week we had, 60-ish people show up to this? And the week before that was like 70 or 80. This week it's 35. Am I just suddenly not that cool? Like, what happened?
Well, it's like you were saying. Sometimes you come at it, but you gotta take a little bit of a break.
You do.
Can't break everybody's minds every week.
I know. Honestly, tonight we were getting this. I told you, I woke up at 6 o'clock today, and I overslept a lot. And I think it was because I was doing that chakra work. I think, we were having this conversation before we came on a little bit, where I had mentioned that, oh yeah, school's in. Thank you, Angry Finger. I didn't realize that. Yeah, that could be it. Thank you so much. I didn't realize a lot of my audience might be, school-age people or people with kids, and they just go to bed. I didn't think of that. Thank you so much. It didn't even occur to me. That's a very likely thing. But anyway, doing that chakra work, I think exhausted me, because I think it reset some things. Kind of like when you do meditation, some people report having a lot of anger and anxiety after doing meditation, or even during. Why? It's not supposed to calm you? No, not necessarily. It's actually... Think of it this way. Imagine you've got 10 angry Rottweilers behind a door that you're leaning up against and keeping them back all the time. And to keep them there, you're pushing against that door all the time. Well, doing meditation is like relaxing away from that door a little bit. So yeah, those Rottweilers are going to spill out and start barking and snapping at everybody. So adjusting your chakras to be balanced again, your body might go, oh, finally, and just fa-boom, and just need to sleep for a few days. So I think that might be what happened to me. I think that's because I really went at it hard yesterday. I did it several times. I did it for the video, and I really did it. I wasn't just performing the emotions. I was doing it on camera at the time. And some of you who watched that video will probably notice that certain chakras I spent more time on. I did them differently. And I did them that way because I felt a difference in each one of those. So my solar plexus chakra, I spent more time inhaling, because I felt like I needed to energize myself a little bit. My throat chakra, I feel like it's overactive. I've been feeling a tightness in my throat, so I did an expulsion there instead, and I kind of settled it a little bit. And it's helped me a little bit. It's definitely helped me a little bit. And in so doing, my body's like, okay, fuck this, I'm good now. So, very important practice for people. You know what? I'm going to let you talk for a minute, Flesh Priest. And maybe come up with some questions for me if you want. But let me see something.
Well, you know what?
Tatum says we're all pink and stinky on the inside. Thank you very much, Tatum. In fact, can we put that as a quote for a meme? We're all pink and stinky on the inside.
Yeah, I like that. Well, tell you what, I've got a question from our backlog. And I'll take the first crack at this one, give you a chance. This one came all the way back from July 23rd. Actually, the first one I was on for, with JD Temple and EA Coetting. Somebody asked, why is my curtain opening right now? Okay, this room is not my own right now. There is another entity within.
Is there a Dane there? The greatest of Danes? Yeah,
there is a Great Dane, and he scared the crap out of me a little bit right now. So, way back
what up?
Mr. D.H. Thorne says hello.
So, way back when, Rob Zion asked, it's a little bit of a long question. He says, I'm not a beginner, neither a magus. But in all my skepticness, that I left away through all these years, something still bothers me. Is it really total physical manifestation? I mean, astral light being touchable. I read about even in some modern grimoires, and I don't know if it's my mind limiting me by don't believing on it enough, or it's another exaggeration, like physical manifestation being a vivid out-of-body experience during the evocation, and so on. I would like to hear some of the experiences of yours too. It would be amazing.
So, yeah, go ahead. We were going to say something first. I heard you make a sound.
I can't touch too much on all of that. I know you were kind of asking about it last week, about my experience with King Paimon. So I guess to go more in depth with that, I'd like to hear some of your experiences. As I've expressed on here before, I'm very much a newbie getting into all of this. So, like, you know what? Everybody says King Paimon. King Paimon, yeah, he seems like a good person.
He's a very dangerous sweetie. Let's put it that way. He can be he can be harsh on motherfuckers, but you're not the type of person he'd be harsh on. I promise you.
I don't know.
Well, he'll scare you. That's different. Don't worry about that. I scare you. Shit.
Well, no. That's the story I'm about to get into. But I don't know. I've done some more since then. It's like, damn. Like I'm not gonna say you're a bastard, but fuck, I thought you were. Damn, I might have had a little bit of a wrong impression. I thought it was gonna be easier than this. Damn.
He's
damn
jovial.
you for.
He's jovial, which is Jupiter, and Jupiter hurls lightning bolts as much as he is generous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But for me, it was like, damn, you tell me what I need to hear, but fuck, I didn't think you'd be that blunt about it. God damn.
Yeah, that too. When I say he's nice, when I say he's a sweetie, I mean I don't mean to like turn him into like a cupcake. What I mean to say is that he's generally, if you come at him from a sincere, honest position, he's one of the safest demons that you can encounter the first time. He's a very good starting spirit because he's so regal and so noble that if you approach him as a king, he will treat you as a king. If you approach him as someone who's just going to give you shit, he's going to take from you. And if you are worthy, he is worthy of you. Does that make sense? You don't have to fear him. You don't have to fear him. All right, so.
But
this is a huge ball of wax-soaked rags with all kinds of bullshit in between the layers that to properly untangle for someone, I'm probably going to fuck up. The first thing I'm going to tell you is all of your experiences are not real in the first place. So the world that you think of as being, and what did you say this person was in the chat right now, or this was like last week?
No, this was from over a month ago. I haven't seen them. It was Rob Zayan.
Rob Zayan, yeah, I know who that is. All right, yeah. All right, Rob, if you listen to this, I do apologize for getting to this so far in the future. Hopefully you guys, probably some of you guys know where I'm going to go with this already.
Hey, we've been pretty good about it recently. I haven't really had a backlog of questions, but D.H. Thorne, J.D. Temple, and E.A. Coetting. That was a lot of questions to get to, a lot of being very vocal. I love it. That's not a complaint.
Yeah, it's useful.
There was not a chance in hell we were going to get to all those questions.
So everything you experience is already an illusion. There is no such thing as real reality. In other words, there is, but not in the way that you think. There is no such thing as an objective truth that is true for all things everywhere at the same time. There is personal reality only, and those personal realities agree, and where they agree, we have the objective reality. So if I pull out a gun and aim it at your head and pull the trigger, I'm going to experience the reality where I kill you. I have no way of proving that I killed you, though, because you may experience a reality where the gun jammed and you turned it on me and killed me. Just that one example, but we can take that to an extreme. To such an extreme that it's not even, it starts to lose meaning after a while. So when we say, how do I have a real manifestation? If you read Carlos Castaneda, there's a reason why psychedelics are so important right now. Why so many people are discovering them and using them for spiritual practice. Unfortunately, a lot of people are using them the wrong way, and it's more like just a party drug and shit. But if you're coming at it from the right perspective, psychedelics will open a doorway for you. I've never used them. I don't think I have to, because I had that experience without the psychedelics, because psychedelics are not the only key to that door. They're just a really big, obvious, easy key. But you can do this without it. You can through meditative practices and things, you can have basically the same thing as a psychedelic trip while doing meditative practice. It's probably not going to be as vivid, at least not without practice, but you'll have the same. I've compared notes with J.D. Temple, and he's like, all your meditative visions are basically what I experienced on an acid trip or whatever, except yours sound like they're more internal, whereas mine feel like they're all encompassing. They become more total. So you're having the same thing, it's just yours manifest fully in your experience rather instead of just internal. With some exceptions. When I had my moment of Satori, that was a total experience, but that was a once in a lifetime. So this is why psychedelics are so valuable, because they show us that disparity between what we think is real and what really is real. And what really is real is an illusion. It's an illusory thing. It's pliable. It's malleable. It's a painting on a wall that you can change anytime you want. But the symbols behind them are real. The symbols are real, but the way that they lay out in our reality is not. And so when you're asking me, how do I evoke a spirit? It's the same thing that Carlos Castaneda asked Don Juan in his interaction with him in that one book, Carlos Castaneda, The Teachings of Don Juan, the Yaqui Way, when he has the experience of being a bird during a trip. And the experience is so vivid and real to him that when he comes back around, he asks Don Juan, was I really the bird? He says, that's a stupid question. Of course you were the bird. He says, no, I mean, did my body change into a bird? He says, well, did you experience your body being a bird? And he says, yes, then you were a bird. No, but I mean, my body, when I took the drug and I passed out, did my body transform into a bird and fly away? Was I always in the room with you? He says, you weren't in the room with me. You were a bird. He says, but what about my body? He says, that's an absolutely absurd question. Your body's not you, is basically the gist of what he's telling you. Your body's not you. Your experience of you is not you. You know, this blob, the flesh that the priest is talking about is not you. That's an experience that you are having. It's different. So if you suddenly have an experience of King Paimon, did King Paimon really show up? And if you are asking that question, what are you asking me? You're asking basically what Carlos Castaneda was asking Don Juan, which I think was somewhat of a... to be personally brutally honest, I think that was not entirely a true story. I think it was inspired gnosis on his part. Very good gnosis, though. But no, I don't... Carlos Castaneda, when talking to Don Juan, would say, in the same situation, did King Paimon show up for me? Was he really in the room with me? Don Juan would say, did you have the experience of King Paimon? Well, yes. Well, then it's a stupid question. Yeah, but was he really there with me? Are you really here with me now? How can you can't answer that question. Stop trying to answer that question. Stop. You're thinking of the Hollywood version of reality. Because Hollywood, I don't know if it's on purpose or if it's just because people are dumb. And when I say Hollywood, I mean all fantasy. Fairy tales, Hollywood, storybooks, the stories we tell each other. There's this insidious tendency for those things to exaggerate to the point of people start to believe that magic is not real unless it looks like Hollywood. That is absurd. And this is why skeptics are always right, because skeptics, the hardcore skeptics, most of them are sincere in this capacity, but I think a handful of them know better. When they judge magical experience, they're judging it versus a preconceived notion that magic has to be like Hollywood, that magic has to be so supernatural that it defies any and all explanation except for something that they don't know. It's worse than a moving goalpost. It's a straw man. They've created a straw man where in order for you to have a magical experience, it has to be impossible for it to happen. Magic doesn't do that. Magic has never done that. The idea that magic does the impossible is absurd right on the face of the matter. Magic uses rational means. Magic is a subtle element of consciousness. It's a subtle element of the collective consciousness. The pyramids were built by magic, but it still took human hands to lay the stones. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So, when we put magic in a place where it means fireballs and spirits materializing out of the floor and the ability to summon an asteroid to crush the earth and whatever other fantasy mumbo jumbo that you think, you've just put magic on a pedestal you can never reach. Now, here's a funny caveat though. Sometimes that's exactly what magic does. Sometimes magic does miracles. Sometimes magic does things. And Sam A just hit the nail on the head. Kind of self-defeating. I think Hollywood did it on purpose like that. You're right, because the powers that be don't want you to know you have that same power. They never did. They've always put your power in the hands of a select few in the priest class, in the gods class. They've never allowed you to see yourself as a god. Very few cultures have allowed that. Really think about that. They've always put magic beyond you. They've always put it outside of what you can do. They've always put it in a realm where it's just unrealistically unreasonable. And I've spent the last year and a half, 2 years, being a spokesman for this other version of reality that says magic is Maya. Magic is the illusion. And you are meant to use your illusion. I had a conversation with somebody today or whatever, response to them. They said something about chakra not being real, and I agreed with them, and they said, you know better, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I know. I said, if we weren't supposed to have an illusion, we wouldn't have one. If the source did not want to be delusion, to have delusion, it wouldn't have it. Don't disparage your ego or your delusion thereof. Embrace that fucker. Allow it.
Fucking
Enjoy
roll
it.
with it.
Roll with it. Go fucking crazy with it. There's nothing stopping you. That's the left-hand path. The right-hand path says, reality must be this way because this is better. The left-hand path says, no. Tell that fucker to go suck his own dick and leave you alone. The left-hand path says there's no taboos. Make reality whatever you want it to be. If that means you create a reality where the spirits are physical, that's not the one I live in, but you're welcome to make that reality and make that yours. I'm telling you what I'm telling you because if you're here with me right now, if you're listening to me right now, we occupy a resonant frequency of reality in which we agree on enough objective things that I can communicate with you clearly. And my communication to you, you're listening to me going, I need this lesson. I need to know that I can do anything. I need to know that reality is malleable. But I also need to know that reality can be done in a rational way so that I don't go crazy trying to do the impossible. I put in Become the Maelstrom, this one chapter about science and rationality versus magic. And I said, consider the Wright brothers flying their airplane was the result of a magic spell that has been in action since time immemorial when the first magicians started doing rituals to learn to fly. It just took that long for it to manifest, perhaps. But that is the will, the intention of the higher source for human beings to have the experience of flight. So, what I'm saying is, stop trying to make magic material. Recognize that material and astral are the same thing, but they're opposite sides of the same thing. All is one, as above, so below. But that doesn't mean there's nothing in the middle. you'll notice the Baphomet statue in itself contains both, doesn't it? It's a big titty goth hooved pagan pan symbol, male and female combined as one, and it points to the as above and the so below. It is trying to tell you that reality is both. And it does help on occasion to focus on the one and the other, because by doing so, it's kind of like when you're trying to see the 3D hologram in those pictures. You got to cross your eyes and do all kinds of funky things to make it pop out. It's kind of like that. If you focus on the astral for a while, and then you focus on the mundane, and you focus on the astral, and you focus on the mundane, and then you make a conscious effort to bring those two together, you can have that experience of them being the same thing. And then your mind will blow. You'll have those moments where you will swear that a portal opened up on the floor and King Paimon stepped out, and you'll swear that happened, but anybody else sitting in the room won't see that, because they haven't aligned themselves with that. So it's not objectively true. It's personally true. And Genie says, big titty goths. Yes. I would be one, but I don't have big titties, so I have very small titties. For a fat guy, I have very small boobs.
I've got like a solid A cup, but I also got that dented chest bone, so I could be...
You can puff it out?
Yeah, so I could be our...
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
I could be
I got them ribs. I got them ribs that makes it so that I would have to be able to bench 400 pounds before my tits would stick out. Like my chest bones are just too fucking big. My lower floating ribs are just like, they flare out like a bell. So I loved Dragon Hara's thing you just put there. So A plus B equals C, therefore C equals B plus A.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I like that.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Come on my show. You get it. Very well said. And it's a good way to put it. Because that's as above, so below. The as above, the so below. But the mind, here's the thing. You're actually talking about the Trinity of Self if you're not familiar with it. Pick up my book, Become the Maelstrom, or do a search on this channel for all of that topic, and it will be better explained to you, and I think you'll find it useful. All right, so let me desync. Why don't you tell us about your experience with King Paimon as an anecdotal story, and then we'll get to another question because my throat's dry.
You know what? I was about to do the Vanna White thing and like grab the fucking mail store. Every time you bring it up, I always just want to grab it right from by my desk and be like, yeah, go buy this shit. But of course,
I am such a disgusting slob. If you guys could see what's at my feet right now, you'd probably be like, oh, Thorne, you don't deserve any of the recognition you get. You're a pig.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I'm terrified of my camera falling right now, because if it does...
How many dildos do you have? No.
Don't say that. A lot.
So this guy right here, get this motherfucker. And I'm not just saying it to sell shit. It's so much more energy to explain it than it is to just write it and have you buy it. So, and I want reciprocation for that energy, because it did take a lot of energy. So yeah, what were you gonna say? Tell us about your story. Oh, Necro Nikki, what's up?
What up, girl?
What up, girl?
Yeah, I when I went and tried to work with King Paimon for the first time, I live in Washington, so there's a bunch of, you know...
Say Washington, because that seems to be a...
You know what? Everybody says that. I have not met a single damn person since I moved here that says Washington.
I will catch occasionally you have weird inflections on words that I don't know if it's because you are younger or because of being on the West Coast, but there's inflections you'll use. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'll let you know next time. It make you feel weird for them when I catch them. So.
It's probably because I was in speech therapy for many, many years, and this was the best they could do for me. So I just speak weird, but we all know that.
I had a friend who I had an argument with. She wasn't a stupid girl, but she argued with me that you're not supposed to say ask. You're supposed to say, I'm sorry, you're not supposed to say, what did she say? Did she say ax? She said, you're supposed to say ax because it's impolite to say ass. My teacher wouldn't let us say ask because it had ass in it. We were only allowed to say ax. And
oh my God.
I was like, don't talk to me. Like, you're hurting my brain right now. Please don't talk to me.
But yeah, I went out kind of deep into the woods. Like, I went to where I knew I would have plenty of privacy and whatnot, and I made myself like a little circle and all this shit, and I got everything ready. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna speak with King Paimon. This is gonna be cool. Okay, and meditated before I did anything. Just about what my intent was, what I'm doing out here, and the exact moment that I got done meditating, I decided, okay, I'm ready to do this. I opened my. You've mentioned, and other people have mentioned that King Paimon likes to make a big introduction the first
Very
time you
often.
meet with him.
Very
Yeah,
often.
and so
Mine was funny. Yours was scary.
yeah, mine scared the shit out of me. I was kind of expecting something like that, and literally the moment I got done with my meditation, like, okay, let's do this. Open my eyes. The first thing I see is just like 20 feet in front of me, big old fucking branch, like not like a little one that has a couple leaves or anything, like a big branch connected to the main trunk with many
Like
other
as big
branches
as my,
on it.
as big as my
Like a like
like my
like your forearm, yes.
like my forearm. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
My
just fucking
pectoralis agitatus.
yeah, that just breaks off of the tree right in front of me the moment I open my eyes and crashes down to the forest floor, and there's that kind of echoey moment and then just silence, and I had to excavate crap out of my pants because that wasn't the first thing I was expecting when I opened my eyes. And it scared the shit out of me. I damn near just like gathered up all my shit, just fucking I would have came back for the backpack.
Called me on the phone like, Thorne, you're an asshole.
Yeah, why the fuck would you do this to me?
Why did you send me into this direct? You fuck.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because I didn't really get anything else out of that or anything, and I think I was just so fucking like I was in a fight or flight mode the whole time of just like that scared the shit out of me. I couldn't control my adrenaline and get it back down to normal. Always looking over my shoulder.
I got a funny question. I forget. You said you saw Hereditary, right? Before you did this?
I did very recently see Hereditary. I don't remember if that was.
I'm wondering how many people saw the movie first, then worked with him and had an experience like that and was like, oh shit, the movie's true, and ran away and never turned back. I'm going to hit a telephone pole.
Well, I know it was way back when, like, I hadn't seen the movie. I think we were playing Borderlands at the time because I, like, vividly remember the level we were playing when you told me the story of just, like, watching Hereditary, and that movie kind of, like, messed you up just a little bit at first. Like, oh, shit. Like,
because he does gruesome really well, and some of the gruesome, but the ending, it's so funny because that ending was supposed to be gruesome. That ending, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. I love it. I love everything about it.
Right?
I love, right? And I don't want to tell anybody the ending in case you haven't seen it. A lot of people get mad. They go, oh, that's so disrespectful to King Paimon. King Paimon made that movie, you fools. He wants himself out there. He wants to popularize himself. He inspired a lot of that movie. That doesn't mean that that's what he is. Relax. He's a big boy. He can take care of himself. He's not that mad about it. A lot of people see that, and his legacy grows, and people will look at that and be like, a lot of people are going to look at that and go, I want to work with King Paimon now because he sounds fucking creepy. And then he's going to take them on a wild adventure of learning about themselves over time. But the ending of that movie, actually, there's something about it that scared everybody else. But to me, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, that was beautiful. That was so artistically beautiful.
It was a dark beauty, but it was fucking gorgeous. I'm glad you said that too. I got that too.
I mean, I will watch just those last 10 minutes sometimes when I need to be inspired a little bit for my occult work. And I'll be like, why are people acting like that's bad? Don't you visualize that in your astral realm sometimes, things just like that? Don't you? Maybe it's not in an attic or whatever, but don't you visualize stuff like that? Come on, guys. Like, don't lie to me here. Not everything. Don't tell me you left-hand path people are loving light little fluffy bunnies, are you? What the hell are you doing wrong? I don't know, Jay Thomas. He says that. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. You know, I didn't catch it. I'd have to look, but I don't know what to say. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I know he says that, and I'm not saying he's lying, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. I did hear that, and maybe they did. Maybe they thought it was public domain and they stole it. It is possible. I know that they got the sigil wrong, so it is possible. Well,
yeah,
they didn't get it wrong. They got like a variant of it, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to like throw it into a whole loop, but yeah, I noticed that too because there's the like I see the sigil as like 4 figures standing there is the prominent point of it, They only had 3 in their movie. In fact,
Yeah.
like King Paimon is out there. If you Google Beelzebub or anybody else, you'll get Wikipedia articles, Ars Goetia. If you Google King Paimon, the first 10 results are all hereditary. If you click images, it's the sigil from the
wrong
movie.
one. Yeah, the wrong
Yeah.
one.
I found that
I've
interesting.
always
Like, were they
visualized
worried about
that-
copyright or what? What the fuck?
I've always visualized that as a boat with warriors on it, and I'll tell you why. If you look up my video about what to call him, it actually goes back to Atlantis. So it's King Paimon is the westernized, demonized, linguistic form of King Eomon, and King Eomon was actually one of the sons of Poseidon, supposedly, who was, one of the sons of Atlas of Atlantis. So you're talking about an Atlantean king who would have been a Nephilim, an Abkalu or an Anunnaki, depending upon how you use that mythology as well. So this being would have been an embodied human being at one point, a Nephilimic being at least, a demigod, basically an invoked god mind into a human-like body, would have had a god consciousness. It would have been a ruler of a civilization. And when he was destroyed or died, I'm not sure, he never told me which, over time that entity became what we now call King Paimon, but he's got a lot of other expressions that I haven't identified, but they do exist. There's a reason why King Paimon and Lucifer are so close. Lucifer is Enki, Ea, a little bit conflated with Horus and Venus for sure, but it really originates with Enki and Ea if you want to really look it up. All of the symbolism is Enki and Ea originally. So Sumeria being the closest culture to, at least chronologically, to Atlantis, I guess you could say, I think remembers more. They remember the flood of Atlantis without calling it Atlantis. They remember the flood that destroyed civilization. Their story doesn't include Atlantis, and maybe there wasn't an Atlantis. Atlantis maybe was not just a city, but an entire civilization, perhaps. And Plato, the story he was told, which was already 9,000 years old. I don't want to get into it. You can watch my video on it. It's pretty cool. So if you look, there's a lot of mythology that sort of correlates and goes back. And yes, Poseidon is an add-on because Poseidon's a newer god, by the way. Yea for Sabna and W is not wrong. Poseidon is... So here's the problem. When we talk about Atlantis, we're taking the Greek account of something that's 9,000 years old. So 5, 6, 7, 8,000 years before the Greeks. They're using their own linguistic names for gods. They're Jupiter and Zeus. Zeus is actually Marduk, which is, Baal Hadad, which is, it's all the same spirit. Every culture reimagines them and gives them a different name, gives them new attributes, syncretizes them a different way. But it's the same basic archetype that's behind it. Poseidon, Poseidon Neptune is the Greek and Roman iteration of Enki Ea. And if you compare it all, if you do some comparative religion, you'll see that that you can sort of, it's not a direct link. Again, remember what I'm saying here is that each culture takes the inspiration from the one before it, crafts a new god to sit in that spot, and changes a lot of things. So there's often times where they'll conflate two totally unrelated spirits. So Lucifer is the conflation of that Venusian Horus energy and also that Poseidon, Neptunian, Enki, Ea energy. And you get kind of like a new being called Lucifer. Basically the same idea behind it, though, in a lot of ways. So that's been my experience with it. And it's worked very, very well for me. In fact, if you even Google Enki's sigil, you'll come up with Lucifer's Lucifer in Asia symbol. Pretty interesting. Some other people found it too. So it wasn't just me. I'm not just making it up. So a lot of people have found that same truth. So all right, let's see. I think I lost the track. What were you going to say there? You're going to talk more about your King Paimon experience.
Oh no, that was more or less it. Loud fucking crash, shit myself, fight or flight, and eventually I got myself home. Just like, okay, well, that scared the crap out of me. Let me see. Enlighten One actually just asked, any advice on how to use your astral senses, mainly Clairaudience, if so, any exercises you would recommend?
Step one is to recognize what you're asking for is sort of a parlor trick. And what I mean by that is when you are hearing things in your head, let me backstep a little bit. I got to do this, and I apologize to people who've been down this with me 1,000 times. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going over the same thing over and over again, but some people are new, so we have to do that. The experience of a sound or a vision is an embodied experience. You cannot have those experiences cleanly without having a body. They are the product of physical senses. So hearing a sound, even if it's just in your head, requires knowledge of what the experience of sound is from a bodied state. If you never had functioning ears, what would sound like to you? So in other words, if someone was born without eyes and ears at all, they have no sense of sight or sound, would you expect them to have visions and auditory, astral information? How would they communicate with spirits if they don't? Are they also blind and deaf to the spirits then? No, of course not. So what you're asking for is, how do I have clairaudience? How do I hear things astrally? What you're actually telling me is, you want to have a game. You want to have a parlor trick. You want to have a magic trick. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but what I'm telling you is you're not looking for the real thing. You're looking for the overlay. You're looking for a fun experience. You're not looking for the actual communication. You're looking for the fun version of it. And I can tell you this because in my own experience, I've had problems with visualization. I can do it, but it's not as well developed as a lot of other people. So when I visualize things, like I'm an artist despite having a bad time visualizing things, right? How do I do that? I know what the image is supposed to look like, but I can't see it. How does that work? I already know what the image is without seeing it in my head. And yes, it can be a little harder because of it, because I can't visually proportion things a little bit in my head as easily as other people can. I can do it, but it's not as good. And I'm getting better with exercises with spirits. If you want to hear spirits in your head, you're actually asking to filter pure communication and turn it into a less pure art form. So what do I mean by this? Let me go another layer deep. When you and I are talking to each other, I'm taking something I want to express to you, passing it through a filter of cognitive thought, passing that cognitive thought through the filter of my biology. My biology is filtering that through what it's capable of doing. That means speaking, moving its hands, breathing air through a voice box, making sound. Then that has to travel through the reality medium that we're experiencing, hit your body, go into your ears, stimulate your ears, create a signal which your brain then has to interpret, and then you as a higher being have to experience. This creates so much fucking distortion that we don't have clean communication. We use a very, very, very bad, simplistic form of communication in the grand scheme of things. Your computer can go boop and transmit this entire conversation in one little foop, like it would just be a beep. So why do we have to go blah, 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 blah? Why? The spirit world, the astral world, it's an analogy. It is there, but we tend to make it something it's not. The spirit world is what happens when your identified mind in an embodied state takes the impulses from that truth and materializes them in your imagination. This is why your imagination and your third eye are basically two halves of the same exact thing. What you imagine is true in the astral, and what the astral is, you can imagine. If you can imagine it, it's there. You can create it in the astral just by thinking about it, and vice versa. It works like that. So if you want to hear spirits talking to you, you actually have to take what they're already giving you and basically dumbing it down. You have to dumb it down to a biological level to hear it. You can imagine whatever you want. If I tell people all the time, Thorne, how do I experience a spirit? My most common advice is to role play it. Pretend. Create an imaginary friend that is King Paimon. And role play it so sincerely that after a little while, for me it's like almost instant because I practice it so much. But if you're a beginner, you may have to role play it for 5 or 10 minutes. And you're going to lose yourself in that role play. And at some point, the conversation you're having with yourself, the answers you're getting from the other side, you don't identify with anymore. You can go, where the hell is that coming from? And if I am just thinking that up, holy shit, I'm a genius inside somewhere. Where's that coming from? I promise you that's how it works for everybody. Everybody who's being honest, that's what's happening. I think. I think some people take that experience and maybe they're a little, maybe schizo, or maybe that's not the right word. Maybe they just hallucinate the rest of it. It's possible. I've had experiences where I've sworn that I've seen things that were not there. And I know they weren't there, but I could swear I saw them so clearly, right? But they weren't there. At least not in that Carlos Castaneda was my body still there moment. So when you're asking me, how do I develop my clairaudience so I can hear spirits? Let me improve the question for you. Thorne, how do I know that I'm getting communication from the spirits? And do they have to make sounds for me to know them? And I will tell you, if you do magical work with spirits long enough, it doesn't take long before you'll work with a spirit. You'll ask them a question. You won't hear a damn thing. But suddenly you'll just know something you didn't know before. You'll realize something. You'll remember something. A random thought will pop into your head that will trigger a whole string of things you didn't think of before. You'll be doing something on the internet the next day, and some kind of weird algorithmic synchronicity will happen, and YouTube will have a video about the thing you're asking about. There's all these different ways that it will come to you. But one of the ways is what could be called an instant upload or download. Now, when you're speaking to a spirit, you don't need to use your voice. You use your voice because you're riding training wheels. You think that you have to speak to communicate because you haven't realized yet that speech is just one expression of communication. Body language is just one expression of communication. Communication is much more fundamentally done. It's people say I communicate telepathically. I do. I realize now that in some ways my own understanding of telepathy has been wrong all these years, because it's not I hear your thoughts, but I do know what you're thinking. How can I do that? And I don't get it right all the time, but I do get a gist. I go, that person didn't like the way I said that word just now. How do I know? I don't know. They didn't make a sound, they didn't move, but I know they didn't like it. I don't know how I know, but they know. But I know. And I can prove it because I'll test it by saying it again, see how they react. So what's happening? I'm getting an instant broadband transmission. Their experience is suddenly my experience. There's no conversation happening. Conversation's an imperfect communication. Well, the astral is perfect communication. The reason for that is your throat chakra, if you want to think of it that way, is in the top 3 chakra. The top 3 chakra are part of the astral. The lower 3 are part of the embodied. The center 3 are part of your interface between both of those things. So your throat chakra is how you communicate with the astral. Your solar plexus is how you communicate with the material. It's how you express in both of those realities. How you receive is your third eye. How you receive is your sacral. So when you're experiencing the mundane world, somebody punches you in the face, that's a sacral experience. When you're having a spiritual vision in your head, that is kind of a mix between sacral and third eye, because your third eye is receiving the information, it's translating it into gnosis and understanding, but your sacral is experiencing that as a vivid imaginatory experience. So what you're kind of asking for, and I see you responded already, so maybe I'm kind of beating a dead horse, but you're basically asking for taking that pure communication and filtering it through your body, imperfecting it, and making it not so good. And I think this is why we get hung up as individual practitioners. We get so fucking hung up on, what is the spirit's favorite number? Do they like to have sage incense or some other floral arrangement? We get all these kind of materialistic ideas. Christians know better. You can talk shit about Christians all day long, but they know that if they just sit in silence and think to their God, that they listen. They know. Well, maybe they don't listen, but they know it's that simple. Why do we make it so fucking hard? Why? We don't have to do that. The incense and shit's for you. I promise you. I've never had a spirit go, where's my fucking incense, man? Never fucking happened once. Never.
I don't think they exactly have a writer like they booked at your venue. And like, oh man, I specifically requested only green Skittles.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Somebody likes my goofy voice. I have a few. You and I are both good voice actors, but I think we should start our own movie house where we just do voice acting. I think that'd be cool.
I'm down.
We each have our own character set.
Tangent, but I swear it's related. Maybe tangentially. Do you know about, I want to say it was Led Zeppelin and their very ridiculous writer requests?
No, but I feel like this is going to be entertaining.
Somebody, I'm sure somebody will correct me in chat, but pretty sure it was Led Zeppelin, and they would have things like, the venue needs to make sure that we have a bowl of M&Ms waiting in our green room, but only, like, you can have all the colors, but no brown M&Ms. They would have a lot of really fucking weird requests like that, and the whole reason why, like, you think, oh, these are some prima donnas or whatever. Okay, chat did not correct me. It was, in fact, my boyfriend. Van Halen, apparently.
Van Halen had it. I believe it. They're all crazy.
But you would think, like, okay, these are a bunch of prima donnas, but apparently the reason they gave was that they were at a venue where there was just, the techs did not know what the fuck they were doing. It caused a fire and all this shit, so they made up this writer. Like, let's see how closely they pay attention. Like, if we go into our green room and we see that they picked out all the brown M&Ms, like, these people are on top of their shit. We don't got to worry about a thing. But if we go in there and all these weird requests we have are not met, we're double checking everything. We're checking every cable. We're doing all of that. And I guess that's, I kind of lost my train a little bit, but I think in a way, like, all of that is not.
No, I think I get where your train was originally going, was that, and I've said this too, don't be lazy by the same token. As much as I just said the one extreme, the other extreme isn't without some value. I get what you're saying, because no, you've got a very good point. If you get lazy and go, well, I just have to say King Paimon's name and that's all I have to do, you can get complacent, right? You can get kind of like half-ass about it, and that happens to me. This is why I say occasionally you do have to do a ritual, right? So I'm going to take back what I said a little bit, walk it back a few steps, and say, not needed, but occasionally recommended. It does help you, because it gives you, the more sacred you make it, the more it's going to treat you as sacred, right? So there is something to that. So I'm going to walk that back a little bit. I'm definitely going to walk that back just a little bit. But remember, it's not that those things themselves are necessary. It's the act of doing them. So in your Van Halen story, they didn't care really if there was brown M&Ms there. They just wanted to know that you were willing to go that extra step. And to that degree, yes, I do think there's something there. That's the part that I'm walking back. So I'm gonna leave that where it is. Source Adversary said something very important. He says, the greatest secret is the silence within the silence.
That deserves to be on a wallpaper.
Yeah. People are terrified of oblivion, true oblivion. They think that the loss of life, when death happens, when their body dies, is some kind of oblivion where there is nothing. Now, here's the issue. You've had the wool pulled over your eyes since the day you were born. When you were born, you knew that you were the universe and you were peering through this little keyhole and the brain wasn't fully formed and you were just in awe, like, wow, look at this. Oh, this is amazing. Oh, that hurts. What the fuck? Hurting? Oh my gosh. You're having this experience of wonder because you've never had, or at least it's been a while, or for whatever reason, you were disembodied before. So these vivid neurological experiences made a lot of difference. You know, it was really vivid and powerful. And you've become so accustomed to that, you're kind of addicted to experience, really. Because it allows your ego to be real. Because you experience your ego through those senses. You know, when someone calls you a bad name, a lot of us will go, ow, right? It kind of hurts a little bit. Like something hurts inside us. What? We don't know, but something hurts. When we see someone die, that wasn't us dying, but it still bothers us. So we experience a visceral reality. And that visceral, vivid reality becomes real reality, but that's not really it. You're experiencing reality through a body that's just one piece, one teeny little piece of what is. So you're experiencing a teeny, tiny little insignificant part of what is. And you think that's all there is. And so when you think about not having a body, and you recognize where do my feelings go when my body goes away? Can you see without eyes? Of course not. Can you hear without ears? Of course not. Can you feel without flesh? No, you can't. Can you taste without a tongue? Can you smell without a nose? So when your body is disintegrating into dust, where do those experiences go? Now, you can remember those experiences pretty well, but they're never as vivid. Otherwise, we would never need to do anything more than once. Why would you be a player, a gigolo? Why would you be someone who goes out and is a nymphomaniac having sex all the time if all you had to do is just walk it back in your memory and just relive the first time you had sex? You could argue, oh, well, it's different every time. Okay, we can argue that. But then couldn't you just imagine it in a different way each time? If all it required was going back in your memory and reliving those experiences and maybe just changing some sequences a little bit? No. So you're craving the experience of the embodied state. And you know in your heart of hearts that when your body goes away, all you're going to have left of those vivid experiences is, it may not even be memory, because memory is a vivid experience too, isn't it? This is why Plato talked about the world of forms. And that is what you are. You're a form. You're an idea. When your body goes away, that idea doesn't go anywhere. It sticks around, and it's conscious of itself. But the form that consciousness takes, it's not going to be vivid. But it's going to be probably bigger than you imagine. One way to think of it is like this. When you zoom in on a page, you can read it. But when you pull back, you see the whole page. You as an embodied being are zoomed in on this body, and you experience everything through the filter of this body in a linear fashion. When your body's no longer working anymore, your consciousness is either going to zoom out to a bigger perspective, or maybe it's going to zoom out and follow all those little pieces around as you disintegrate, but it's not going to stay in this embodied state the way it is now. That's going to stop. So it's either going to jump to a new body that's being born and say, nope, I'm not doing this. I don't want to experience nothing. I want to go back to that embodied experience because it's so much more fun. Let me get back on the ride. Let's do this again. Fair enough. And every time you're going to be pissed off because every time your reality is going to seem, you're going to get so wrapped up. It's kind of like a little kid playing a video game. When they first start playing the game, this is so freaking awesome, until they die the first time and they start getting mad. And then they die again and again and they don't want to play anymore. But they keep playing and they get madder and madder and they throw the controller and shit like that. That's the human experience in a nutshell, in a reincarnation sense. So the greatest secret is the silence within the silence. If you can become aware of the fact that within even silence there is a silence, that you can be utterly silent and still have knowledge, you can still have consciousness within silence and be aware of everything, but not feel it. That it doesn't end, it just changes the type of experience you're having, I suppose, from one of an embodied state to a much bigger or wider or complex experience that is so big and wide you can't fathom it. I've often said that being an embodied being is the equivalent of taking a straw and having the ocean filter through it. It's the only way for you to vividly experience every millimeter of that ocean. Because if you see the whole ocean at once, it's just a big body of water, and all the waves just look like static. If you've ever gone up in an airplane and you flew over the ocean and you look down, it can actually be hard to tell how high up you are because all the little waves will form big waves, at least in terms of your visual awareness. And you'll start to see, like, as you go higher, the waves still look like they're this far apart. You know what I mean? And you'll see a little thing that looks like a tiny little boat, and you say, oh, it's like a little rowboat. Then you look, you're like, no, wait, that's a cruise ship. How big are those waves? And if you were to zoom in down to the cruise ship, you'd see, yeah, those are big waves, but there's also little waves in between that at the height you are from the deck to the water, they look like big waves. So the same thing, it's that fractal pattern again. So if you zoom out, if you leave your body and you pull back, your senses will not be the senses of this little body. They're going to be the senses of the bigger picture. I have no idea what that's going to be. This is why I say spiritual beings are non-local. They don't have a localized expression of body. They have a much bigger one. And Source Adversary is saying a very smart thing. The mind is like a pond. It reflects. And in that reflection, you decide what matters or not. So I'm going to leave that where it's sitting. I'm going to leave it where it is and let you guys play with it a little bit. Let you guys think about what I'm saying. Try to test what I'm saying. Like, literally take what I'm saying and evaluate it. What do I experience without a body? What could I experience if I had no body? Could I feel anything without skin? Could I see anything without eyes? If not, do you think a ghost sees and feels things? Of course not. Not the way you would, anyway. If it does, it's going to be the way whatever it is a ghost feels. And it's going to be unknowable to you. Ironically, though, and let me short circuit that line of reasoning and say, but you're experiencing that right now in a way, because you are that experiencing this through this little keyhole. So in a weird way, maybe you do keep experiencing things, but it's not going to be singular. It's not going to be focused on one body. It's going to be a disembodiment. This is why we call him a disembodied being, right? So we call him a non-local being. You pull back, you zoom out, and now you see more. Thank you, Juliana. I'm not. I'm just a fucking. I close my brain off and I just ramble and I rant. Party on, dudes.
So we had.
I don't water. I'm thirsty.
We had one question in here. It was about something. I'm going to flip the question a little bit. This person was asking if could talk about our own strengths and weaknesses. This was from this is in the backlog. And also some of the, your opinion of the top 3 magicians currently working towards ascension. I'm going to flip that a little bit. Who are some of the people that inspire you out here? I know Behemoth X is a name that every time he pops up in stream, everything drops just to give shout outs to him.
Yeah, I love his channel. I love, so one thing I don't like about that question is I don't like to evaluate people's ascension. You're already ascended, you just don't know it. And so I don't like to, it's not even just being polite. It's a reminder to myself, you know. I see myself as the highest that is. I see everybody else as good. Yeah, Dice is great. This person's that way. You're great. Matt, you know, all my friends are this way, that way. Behemoth X is this way and that way. But none of them know what I know, right? That sounds very arrogant and egotistical, but it's also true. Nobody knows what you know, right? Nobody has your experience. But we're all already ascended. We're all already enlightened. We just have to recognize it. We have to experience it. We have to accept it. So I don't really look at anyone and say, where along the ascension path are people? I'd say we all have our stumbling blocks. We all have our things that make us feel stupid, from time to time. Give me a second. I'm responding.
I think also like putting yourself up on a pedestal to like have a sense of superiority over other people, like the idea of more ascended than others. I think that's looking at it from the wrong angle too.
Totally wrong. As arrogant as I sound, I'm not that kind of arrogant. I'm arrogant in the sense that I know I'm divinity, but I also know you are too. And if I do look down ever, it's because I think to myself, this motherfucker's trying to drag me down to a state where I don't know that. They're trying to their efforts to dumb me down, to bring me down to their level. They're basically saying, I don't like the fact that you know what you are in a weird way. They may not realize that's what they're, but they don't like that I know what I am, and so they're trying to bring me back down to that state of delusion where I forget. And so I might look down on them in that sense. It's a defensive reaction. It's like when Anton LaVey says, when someone slaps you on one cheek, you smash them on the other. When I see somebody trying to drag me down to their level of awareness, I'm generally very polite at first, but then I go, you know what, fuck off. I don't need you in my life. Bye. And I do look down on them in that sense. But I don't feel like I'm somehow superior to them. It's more along the lines of, I don't want to turn back in the book 500 pages just so we can relate to each other. And how dare you for trying to make me do that? So that's where that maybe black side of arrogance lies. But it's not a feeling of I'm better than you. Sometimes I have to correct that. There is a piece of me that will occasionally allow that feeling because it feels good to be like, fuck you all, you suck. But that's not where I hang my hat. That's not where I live. And anybody who knows me long enough knows that I can be very self-centered. But what I do is I tend to try to raise people up around me. Go, this is fun. Try this. Do this. Have you had this experience yet? Hey, let's hang out and play this game. Let's blah, 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 blah. And it seems like I'm serving myself, and I am. But I'm looking for people to relate to because it's lonely to think the things I think and not have anybody to talk to about it. It really is. It's one of the reasons I like talking to E.A. Quetting. It's one of the reasons why I like JD. It's one of the reasons why I like you and my wife. I can talk to you guys about these things. You guys, either you get it or at least you humor me enough that I can talk to you about it and not feel like I'm wasting my time. So it's kind of a loneliness. When you know you're the source, it can feel lonely. That's why the source made other sources for itself. That's why the source created other ideas. So it wasn't just there by itself. But no, I don't think I'm above. And if I was going to say, who do I see as...
Well,
I can tell you the people who've inspired me would be like people like Alan Watts, Terence McKenna, Carlos Castaneda. They've all been inspirational, and their inspiration for me was validating what I already suspected or giving me the language to express what I already knew.
And that's why I wanted to flip that question into inspiration more, because I feel like that's something that we could get a lot more out of.
Mm-hmm. And that's, and so E.A. Quetting's role, for example, he played a very central role, whether he knew it or not at the time, because I had had my moment of Satori. I had figured out what I was. I understood all of these things. And I was kind of bored with it, believe it or not. And I was like, well, I can just sit here like a monk on top of a mountain and, just chant my mantras and do the dumb shit that just really doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Let me look at magic again. I haven't looked at magic in 20 years, 15 years, however long it was, 10, 15 years. Because Alan Watts had basically, there was this one lecture he gave where he said, even if you know that going into a temple and doing a religious ceremony does nothing, you should still do them. Because they are there for a reason. You can have the experience of magic without magic being what you think it is, without it being real. So go into the temples and light the incense and salute the Buddhas and really throw yourself into that and enjoy that experience for what it is. It's an experience. In other words, he was saying, do magic for the experience of magic, not for the result of it, basically, is what he was saying. I don't know if he would have said it that way, but I think if I could materialize him out of the floor and say, is that kind of what you meant? He'd say, not when I said it, but yes, I see what you mean. That's probably close enough. You can have the experience of magic without having results. And so I threw myself into it saying, I really loved the aesthetics of black magic. I really loved working with dark forces that I thought were real at the time. I really loved all of this. Let me experiment and see if there was more to it than just my imagination. Let me go and buy a book of magic. Let me go perform the rituals as an adult with adult resources, with an adult mind. Let me take some ritual system which whether I believe in it or not, let me find one that's similar to what I know how to do, and let me take this and let me invoke the most unbelievable spirits that these people are claiming are real. Let me take the Lovecraftian entities, which in my analytical brain I said they can't be real, just some dude wrote about them. Let me figure out if this even works. And I did the rituals. And I did them very close to as prescribed. And it was like it all came crashing back. Suddenly, it was almost like a drunk who had his first drink of whiskey after 20 years. It all came crashing back. However, it came crashing back, but now I also knew this other thing that I had gotten from my moment of Satori. It started to, and yes, Damien Eccles is freaking awesome. Although I think we agree on a lot and disagree on a lot. I would love to have him on my show. Or be on his. I brought the electrodes close enough together of occult and mysticism, and there was a spark, and I understood how they related to each other and what they meant. And I realized that, yes, the Lovecraftian entities are real after a fashion, if nothing else. There's absolutely something there that inspired Lovecraft to write them. Is it that there is a Cthulhu sleeping at the bottom of the ocean? No, I don't think so. I could be proven wrong. I don't think there's a Cthulhu floating out there in the Sea of Rylach. I don't believe that. But I believe that the metaphor of Cthulhu is real. The archetype of Cthulhu is real. There is a gargantuan monstrosity of madness that is sleeping most of the time, and occasionally we bring them up in our reality. And we have, like what we see right now in Western culture right now, this wave of madness sweeping the land. This does happen. So yes, I do think that it exists, just not as an embodied being that goes and slams up out of the ocean. Yeah, the bloop, I know all about the bloop. It's probably a whale fart. Of course, the whale would have to have been like the size of like the moon, but you know, because the power that was in the bloop. But yes, I don't think that was Cthulhu. I think that's funny though. So, and Cthulhu is actually a minor deity within the Lovecraftian universe anyway. He's like, you know, he'd be like one of the lowest of the Goetia. He almost doesn't matter. You know, he's
the poster child, but he's the Hercules walking around when you got Zeus and Poseidon up here.
Yes, very good way to put it. Exactly. Or Nyarlathotep, which is the soul of all of them. It's the, you know, the Brahman, if you will, and Azathoth is the Atman and all of that. So you have all these different relationships. Anyway, so I did that. And when I did that, it was like applying the higher metaphysics that I understood, that non-dualistic philosophy to it. That was such a key that unlocked so many of these little details. That's why you guys tune into me and go, what's he talking about? You know, what is this? I've never heard of this before. So yeah, basically, yeah. So after that, it's just been a descent into the madness that I now have that I do. And maybe in 10 years, I'll be sick of left-hand path occultism, and I'll just be like, I've made enough money that I can go to my mountaintop and be free of all of this, and my work will be out there for people to use, and I'll retire. But then people will seek me out, and we'll just have conversations over tea, and it'll be just like this, and I'll still be fulfilled. It doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be demons. It doesn't have to be gods. It could just be, hey, you know what reality really is? A complete illusion. Have a nice day. Figure that one out. And just leave it there for people, because that fucks with people's heads, you know. But
gives them something to chew on. I tell you, you'll never, even if you abandon all of it, you're not going to escape this. I'll fucking climb that mountaintop.
It's like, who is this dude showing up? I don't know. Well, if I have my way, you're going to be the one who builds the. You're going to be doing the woodworking for a lot of it, so, or at least helping me design it. But anyway, so E.A. Coetting played a major role in that, because when I jumped back into magic, I was doing Google searches and YouTube searches for real live magic rituals. I wanted to see what it looked like today. You know, what had the state of magic ritual become? Is there anybody who's doing a good job performing magical rituals? Because obviously YouTube's a thing. People like to record themselves. I'm sure somebody somewhere has got a real satanic, demonic, or magic ritual that's not just the usual suspects of Kabbalah and blah, blah. Who's got some other weird stuff that's maybe less known about? And I discovered EA Coetting. I discovered a few other channels, and some of them have had on. And I watched EA Coetting's stuff, and I was able to pick out the parts that here's the showmanship, and here's the reality, and this is what he believes, and I was impressed with that. And I said, let me buy some of these books and try them. And then getting to know him years later, it's like the guy is awesome. You know, you get to know him personally. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and nobody's flawless. Everyone's got a Persian flaw. Everybody's got a bad habit or a bad smell or something about them that might trigger you. The guy's awesome. The guy's fun, and he and I are more on a same level of understanding of reality than most people. I don't have to explain everything, and he and I can just look at each other and give each other advice based on what the other one's saying, and it's valid and it helps. He's one of the few people who will, when I'm in my lower vibration state and feeling like a victim of the world, he's one of the few people who knows how to kind of smack me in the face with my own gnosis and say, didn't you just say the other day, smack? And then I can do the same to him, and we have a great relationship because of it, because we both can kind of remind each other of our divinity, and it's very helpful. And J.D. Temple exudes that love and that need to be loved, and he's like a heart chakra that's just opened up. Just here, boom, heart chakra. That's all I am, is a heart chakra, and that's his gift and his curse. It means he gets hurt a lot, but it also means he's very giving. I love the guy for it, you know, and he's been an inspiration. And other people have been inspirations. Some people were more inspiring because of the art, but they had very little magical capability whatsoever. Some people that I've worked with, that I was very connected to, or that I've known very well, they were very artistic or well-spoken, or they knew how to make rituals, but I don't think they ever practiced them. You know, that kind of stuff. And they're all inspirational, and they all do different things for us. And I won't really talk bad about people. You know, I will say this person I don't agree with sometimes if it's really confronted with me. You know, like, I have nothing against VK, but he and I see things differently. You know, and I don't know how much of that would be, you know, he keeps to his corner, I keep to mine, and I've got nothing against him. I would say promote the guy. He deserves his attention. He works hard. He's a hard-working guy. He helps a lot of people with what he finds. Do I agree with everything he finds? No. Does he agree with the things I find? Probably not. I'm sure he has a lot of things he would say about me too. But why are we in competition with one another? Should I say, don't listen to that person? I will tell you if somebody's a complete fraud, but I don't even like doing that, because as I've said to people, even a charlatan can be inspired to tell you something useful. You know, people practice pop culture magic, and they're not wrong to do so. People will work with the Marvel Avengers, and they will invoke each one, and they will have real magical manifestations because of it. Does that mean that there's an Iron Man ghost? That there's an Iron Man god? No. But somehow when they invoke that concept, their life changes. Are they a fraud when they say that works? No.
If you're getting results, then fuck.
And the results aren't just tangible results. It's internal results. If you're having an experience that makes you happy, why should I shit on that? Just don't make it mine. Don't force me. That's when I get offended, is when someone says, it's only this. So when I run into a theistic Satanist, for example, I don't mean all of you who are theists, but certain theistic Satanists act like Christians, and they get offended personally if you don't worship Satan the way they think you should, if you are insulting to Satan, if you're this or that, if you're not kneeling and begging and scraping to Satan. And I come down on them hard, and they get so mad. They get madder than a Christian does. And get out of here. I don't need you. I don't have time for you. Don't tell me what to believe. I'll tell you what I believe, and then it's your choice to accept it or not. Same token, all of these people do their own thing, and if it's something that makes their life powerful and meaningful, I would never tell them to stop. I would never tell that theistic Satanist to stop what they're doing. I would never say, stop worshiping Satan, it's wrong. I would say I would never do it, and here's why. But I'm never going to tell you that you should stop. That's your own ascension and growth. Fuck me for trying to change you. Unless you're paying me $100 and saying, what am I doing wrong? Then I might say, this is what I would do differently. But different story completely. So yeah. Good question, Victory. Exactly. How is it possible but how is it possible to insult any of us, really? We do, but how? I don't know. You know, it works on me sometimes. It's hard, though, because the things that you think would insult me usually don't. It's the things you don't realize would insult me that do. The things that you have no control over piss me off.
I've hurled some insults at your way, too. I mean, fuck, last night when we were playing Jackbox.
That was a good one, though. That was a funny one. That was freaking great.
I feel like that's also where you can't exactly say you shouldn't be, like if somebody were to tell me, you know, you can't speak to DH like that, you shouldn't say that to, you don't know what our relationship's like. I could call you a bitch ass motherfucker in the right context, and
you gave me permission to use the F word, and I still don't use it. I mean, I got the F word pass.
Yeah, you got the F word pass as the resident member of the agenda here.
But in all seriousness, it's, you know, I do appreciate when people stick up for me. There are people who fucking try to do shit. Like, there's people who've been posting my books and she find them for free and blah, blah, blah. And people will be like, this guy gives out so much information for free. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're literally taking food off his table. And obviously he's fat enough, maybe he doesn't need it. But, you know, still, you're maybe depriving the skinny people in his house. What are you doing? So, you know, I do appreciate that. But in all honesty, you know, I'd be doing this anyway. Yeah, I could probably be run off the internet if I had a huge swarm of haters show up and stay there for years and make me feel like what I'm doing doesn't help anybody and I was just masturbating myself every time I came on video. I probably wouldn't do it. But even if I never got big, even if I never reached the level of notoriety of E.A. Coetting or people much bigger than him. There's people, you know, like, what's it, Morg? Morg's pretty cool. There's a lot of cool occultists and spiritualists and people out there. I'll probably never be as big as they are in terms of notoriety. I do hope that my work will stand the test of time. I do hope that 100 years from now, after I'm dead, maybe longer than that, someone's going to be looking at Become the Maelstrom and go, what the fuck is this? And they're going to decode it with my other works, and they're going to turn that into some new tradition, maybe even. That'd be so freaking cool. I haven't put that in the book. But
I was kind of having a conversation about this. I've been training a new guy at work recently, and he was talking me up about, like, so what are your goals right now? What are you trying to do? And he was so taken aback when I told him, like, very sincerely, like, my main goal right now is I'm just living every day trying to be happy, and then eventually I'm gonna die. And
exactly.
He's like, that's kind of depressing. You realize that? Like, how's that depressing? It's like, well, you gotta have career goals. You gotta, like, well, sure, there's things I want, like, but shouldn't that be the main thing? I'm just trying to live, enjoy it. Like, I'm trying
my
to.
question to
be,
you for that.
What's
Sorry,
that?
I don't mean to cut you off. You're trying to make a point. Keep going. I get like, I want to say what I'm thinking.
My words get all jumbled up too, but
You're fine.
To me, it's less important about the physical destination I wind up in. It's more about just enjoying the journey there. Like, I know what I'm doing validates me. Like, I'm feeling happy about what I'm doing, and I think that's the most important takeaway. Even if all the little stuff in between didn't exactly go my way, I know this is what I wanted.
Yeah. That's why I go to great lengths to try to explain to you that everything you're experiencing right now is exactly what you want to experience. You just, not the ego, and so you think that that's not what you want. But I'd go even one step further and say, someone who's talking like that, I would say to them, are you more happy in the future or now? And an idiot's going to say, well, I can envision a time when I'm going to be happier. It's not what I said. Are you happy in the future or now is what I said. If they think about that, they're going to realize the only time you can be happy is now. It's always now. That's all there is now. So no matter what your future little plan is, even your vision of the future makes you happy. You're happy now, not in the future. Happiness doesn't lie in the future. So what you tell a person like that is say, so you're not really trying to have a happy life. You're trying to have a happy fantasy, because that fantasy is bringing you joy to think it could happen. Well, The flesh priest is happy now with what he has. He doesn't need to fantasize. He's trying to be happy right now. In fact, he is happy right now. Even when he's pissed off, he's happy. He just doesn't know it.
Try to be.
There's no try. There just is. Do or do not. There is no try. You are happy or you wouldn't be here. It's so simple that it eludes people. You know, people say like, oh, the goal in life is to get rid of your ego and become a god. No, it isn't. No, it's not. You're already a god. Getting rid of your ego is the most egoistic fucking thing you can do. Your ego is there because you want one as a god. You cut your finger off when you were fucking running the fucking saw tomorrow. Hopefully it doesn't happen, by the way. Knock on wood.
No, we got saw stops.
Okay. Because you wanted to cut your finger off. Not you. You wanted to cut your finger off.
You know what? I'm going to knock on wood anyways, though.
Do it, yeah.
Because now you got me nervous.
No buzzsaws, guys. No. In fact, call in sick tomorrow. And if someone else does it, I expect a message. So yeah. It's not even, when people say live in the moment, if you spend all of your time thinking about tomorrow, you're not living today, you're living tomorrow. You spend all your time worrying about what happened before, you're not living now, you're living yesterday. It's so stupidly obvious that people hate to hear it because it's like, that's easy to say but hard to do. Except you're doing it now anyway. If you're thinking about nothing but tomorrow and yesterday, you're experiencing that right now. You're making now that thing. You know what I mean? You're making now that thing. So, don't worry about it. In fact, that's probably the most enlightening statement ever made was don't worry about it. Because that's you know, what does nirvana mean? It means out breath. It means breathing out. It's like a sigh. It's letting go. It's letting go of the bullshit. That's what enlightenment means. It's letting go of the things that distract you from the part that says, this is awesome. I am sad when I forget that I'm happy. I'm not sad because something made me sad, and I'm not happy because something made me happy. I'm sad because I've forgotten that I'm already happy. Because every moment of your life you're happy, and when you only experience happiness or any emotion, it gets dull, doesn't it? To put this in a base mentality, because sometimes it's fun to do that, if you were to masturbate every hour of every day, assuming you didn't get sore to the point of bleeding, you'd be sick of orgasms by the end of 2 or 3 days, right? There's people who can't stop coming. Go look it up. And they say it's absolute hell. It's like the worst fucking thing you can imagine. So you're happy all the time. It's just, you kind of go, hey, because it's a dull roar all the time. And so you're constantly looking for another new happiness to fill in the gap, to make it more fun. You need the next fix of dopamine, is basically what it is. So sadness is just forgetting you're happy already.
I think to put what you said in a slightly different way too, there's always that inner peace there. It doesn't go away. There's just things that distract you and make you look away from it. That's something that I've had to realize a lot. It's like when I'm in a bad mood, when I can't get something off my head, it's not that, you know, this is making me that way. It's I'm allowing myself to be that way. If I just change my perspective, if I stop whatever it is, I can get back to that peacefulness. I am in control of that.
Why do you want to do that? And this is something I have to remind myself too, so I'm not judging. I'm just telling you, why do we do that? Because we forget that even when we've cut our finger off, we're still having a great time. That there is no getting back to happy. You're happy right now, no matter what you're going through. You are. I don't care. I know there's going to be people who are suicidal. They're going to fucking ream me and say, you don't know what it's like to be me. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. You don't know what it's like to be me either, so relax. We're even then. But I will tell you that from this metaphysical perspective that I have, you would not be experiencing this if you didn't want to. Your ego doesn't like it. Your ego, it's a mirror. It's a pond, it's a mirror, and you're looking at it and going, I don't like what's on that mirror right now. But there's nothing on the mirror. It's a reflection. There's nothing on the mirror. The pond is still. It's not doing anything. The ducks flying over, the rain clouds flying over that's causing the storm, they don't exist. You are looking at it going, I don't like this TV show. That's what you're doing.
This season really jumped the shark.
Yeah. We're happy because we're experiencing. Good point, Lucas. Bliss is experience. All experience is bliss, and bliss is all experience. It's a very love and light sounding thing, but don't forget, bliss doesn't mean what you think it means. Bliss does not mean nothing but pleasure in the human sense of pleasure. Bliss is let's see if there's an English word that's better than bliss to define it, to kind of put it in comparison. Bliss is exhilaration. If you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, a part of you, a guilty part of you, is going to go, "This is fucking awesome!" the whole way down. And there's a part of you that's going to be thinking, what's it going to feel like to feel all my bones break? The part of you that doesn't like that is your ego. But there's a part of you going, holy shit, this is fucking cool. I promise you. And I know that because I've had accidents where as I'm going into them, I go, this is going to hurt. Whoa. And it's an exhilarating experience. Think of it kind of like going into a haunted house. Or a...
good example.
Or a scary movie. The experience, the discomfort of fear is pleasure in a weird way. Think of a masochist. They like getting whipped. Think of a sadist. They like hurting people. What's going on there? You know, how do you untangle that? Bliss is not pleasure, and that can fuck your brain up because you kind of hit this point where, as I said in my book, you suffer because you think you ought not to suffer. The whole reason you suffer is because you think you're not supposed to. If you understood the importance of suffering as part of experience, you wouldn't run away from it. And I'm not saying that I spend my whole life looking for excuses to cut my fingers off. What I'm saying is that without that salt and pepper, the stew loses flavor. Too much salt or too much pepper makes it taste terrible. Too much pleasure is as miserable as too much pain. So bliss is not about pleasure. It's not about pain. It's about a constant pendulum swinging between all of the colors of the rainbow. Just like your experience of reality is a constant Rorschach ink blot made of every color of the rainbow. Pain is just a color, and you need that color. Suffering is a color. You need that color to experience bliss. And you're going to really suffer when you try to make suffering go away. Nothing will make suffering more painful than thinking you're not supposed to have it. It's like okay, the idea that you are not supposed to suffer is like seeing a cut on your arm and saying, I'm not supposed to have a cut, and cutting the cut out. Does that make sense now? Does that make... let me know in the
I think
comments
that's pretty
if that makes
clear.
sense. Does that make sense? So thinking you're not supposed to suffer is like having a cut on your arm and then being displeased with the cut, so you cut the cut out.
This, I feel like I just drop random fun facts at time, but,
I drop random fortune cookies, so...
in my brain, this is connected. We'll see if you guys can get anything from that, but the idea of suffering and, knowing peace. I read a study that found that people that have really bad anxiety disorders actually are more frequently drawn to horror movies, even when they don't necessarily like them. And I actually have a friend that is that way, who cannot fucking stand horror movies, but I will drag them in any opportunity I find to when they're like, okay, I guess we could watch a horror movie tonight, I will drag them right into it because I'm so numbed from the experience that I like need to experience somebody else's like getting freaked out and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it was like. Oh shit. Um, Beside the point. But they actually found that with some of these people, it helps them when they're feeling anxiety and they don't know why everything is going on, experiencing a movie, experiencing something where it's like, oh, right, this is why I'm experiencing anxiety because, King Paimon is fucking up this whole family relationship. That's why I'm feeling stressed right now, and that actually helps them return to, being
Normalcy,
at ease.
some kind of, yeah.
Yeah, is
Every
the
spirit
suffering.
is an excuse. I told somebody that recently, and I think it was in a consult. All gods and demons are is an excuse. They allow you to take credit. So let's put it this way, and my consultee, the person who was with me the other night, they brilliantly responded. They said, you got a point. Whenever I do a spell and it works, I take credit. And whenever it fails, I say, well, the spirit decided that maybe it wasn't. We tend to pass the buck, right, to the spirit world a lot. I try not to do that ever. I try to say, I just, whatever. I try not to do it like that. But even using a spirit to do things allows us to pass, like Azazel, the scapegoat. We're putting the doubt onto a spirit. We're having faith the spirit will answer the question. We're letting the spirit handle it. And like you just said, I'm having a bad day because I didn't leave the offering out all night for King Paimon, and he's mad at me. So we make excuses because our ego can't stand being responsible because it knows it's not. But it can't stand the fact that it is or isn't. It wants to feel in control. And that means it wants to feel like a victim. It's like it gaslights itself. The ego's a dick. But you need the dick. You need it. You absolutely need it.
Hello, other isolated audio clip of the night.
You need a dick in your life. I know. I feel like the Alex Jones of the internet of the occult. Like, I don't know. Maybe EA is the Alex Jones and I'm the David Icke. I don't know which, but yeah, I think I'm closer to the Alex Jones personally. Would you guys agree? Who would you say I am in the conspiracy theory universe? Am I more like an Alex Jones? Which one of those people? I think Alex Jones. I think that's who I am. And I should do my super say.
Could you help us out here? Could you say they're putting things in the water, they're turning the frogs gay?
They're putting things in the water and they're turning the frogs gay!
You're right, and we did that for you.
Oh, shit.
That's my agenda, baby.
I mean, if you know anything about biology, you know that frogs actually do that they do, because there are frogs that will change genders when there's not enough of one, and it changes the chemicals in the waters, and he's not...
Hey, man, I watched Jurassic Park, I know.
Oh, you did? Good. I'm glad I wasn't the only one. Okay, good. I love that some people like me can gain all of our scientific knowledge from bad movies. But so, all right, I'm losing my voice like Alex Jones after hour 3 of his Monday show. I don't want to sound like him forever. I don't want to get like that. So I'm going to say let's give it 15 more minutes. Let's get some last questions in. As usual, yeah, Keck indeed, baby. Yeah, hell Keck. Chatelet, baby. Yeah, if you have any more questions or anything, super chats are welcome. You go to the front of the line. But if you got any more questions for the last 15 minutes, let's hear them. Try to keep them so I don't have to rant for hours about non-duality again. Let's keep them a little bit. You know what? I usually say I don't want the stupid question. Give me the stupid question. Like, give me the what color blood should I put on my sigil?
Somebody was asking at the very beginning of the stream, actually, and I wasn't able to get back to it, about hold on, I think I wrote this down. Give me 1 second. I'm totally prepared. I don't know what you all are talking about. If Jinn and demons are both the same entity but named differently, if there's any difference. I know I don't have a big opinion on that. Ironically, I've actually been listening to a podcast recently that is literally all about Jinn. I think it's called like the
Submersible Servant or something like that.
No, that's not the one. I think it's like the
Okay.
dark secret of the Jinn,
Oh, okay.
where, from her perspective, the Jinn are very real, and their own separate entity, different from demons, but also she admits that in a lot of cultures, people consider them the same thing. There is no difference. I think it's all just
So
perspective.
my problem, I'm going to say I don't know on one level. One of my issues with occultism, at least as we experience it in this world, we have a kind of hubris, cultural hubris, where we take the spirit world and we treat it like biology, in that there are phylums and races and classes and a family tree of spirituality, where demons are on one side, angels are on another, gods are somewhere else, jinn are over here, oni are somewhere else, tengu are somewhere else. We've got this goofy tendency.
We really like our classifications.
We love classifying things. And instead of recognizing those classifications as archetypes and putting them all in a bigger, broader, unified theory, we separate them out to be classifications of completely different things and say jinn are not demons and demons are not angels and angels are not gods. But I'm here to tell you that in my worldview and experience, these are archetypes that are witnessed, and they're conscious of themselves in many cases. Not everyone. We certainly do create egregores that don't have a foundation in anything. But when we, as human beings, seeing the world through a cultural lens, when we experience a sentient egregore, a sentient consciousness, an archetypal consciousness in our life, we personify it. And we personify it through the lens of our culture. It's what a skeptic would tell you. A skeptic's going to say to you that the ancient Semitic people or the ancient Mesopotamian people observed the patterns of thunderstorms and personified it in a form of animism, a more advanced form of animism perhaps than like a tribal guy living in a jungle somewhere, in a much more culturally advanced way. They personified that natural force through the lens of their culture. And I agree with them. I think that's what we do as occultists too. Except some occultists are still so, and I'm going to say this is going to sound negative, they're so on a lower vibration where they're so identified with materiality so much. They're superstitious, if you will. And they live in dogmatic cultural perspectives. So you have maybe an occultist who believes in a Christian truth, an occultist who believes in a Jewish truth, an occultist who believes in a Muslim truth, believes in a Shinto truth, a Taoist truth, a Hindu truth. And so everything is going to be shaded that way. So that means King Paimon's a jinn. And that means King Paimon's a demon to someone else. And King Paimon would be, what are the dark spirits in Hinduism? Not that, I guess, would it be the devas? I always forget. Would be whatever that is for them. King Paimon would be an oni to a Japanese person, perhaps. And so they all call them this thing. And then modern people, with our goofy little idea of biology and evolution, we go along and we go, well, a tengu is different from an oni, and blah, 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 blah. And so they're not the same. And in a sense, they're not the same on some level, but that doesn't mean that they're separate either. This is why I'm constantly telling people that instead of thinking that Lucifer is Lucifer, think Lucifer is a mask of something bigger. And that mask is being shared, or should I say that something bigger is sharing many masks. And what you have to do is recognize that at the end of that rainbow, if you go all the way up the river, you come to yourself eventually. It's kind of like the tree of life or the cliff off.
Or to put it in
branches.
millennial terms, it's the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other.
Okay.
Like
sure.
It was you the whole time.
It was you the whole time.
It was me.
It was me. Well, it's like this. It's like you're like a leaf on the end of a branch, and if you go further up, you go to a fork in the limbs of the tree, and where that fork is a god. And if you go a little further, there's another fork, and now you got a bigger god. And if you go to the trunk, you go, wow, that must be the god. But that's not the god either. Then you got the whole stem and the whole blah blah blah, and you get the root system. And then they spread out again. So instead of seeing it as Lucifer is, and everything extends from that, or God is, and everything extends from that, think of it like the further up the tree you go, you come back to yourself eventually. This is what it means when Crowley says the 72 are expressions of our aspects of ourself. The self, though, is the greater self, not the little limited self that you think you are. So the self that he's talking about, I think, because he was a smart guy, he knew that yoga meant union. He made a very big point of that. So the self I think he's talking about is the greater self. I'm getting a message here. Hold on. Maybe important. Maybe very important.
And give any of those last-minute questions, but before we even get to them, I'm going to... This might be the most important one.
Not getting the messages.
At least since I've been around. This is probably the most important question we've ever got. D.H. Thorne, the people need to know. What types of cheese does Belial like?
Gouda.
I think a bunch of people were experiencing the same thing because I saw a bunch of Gouda in chat.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. Just the first thing that came to my head was Gouda. I don't know. What's that cheese with the red wax on it? That one.
Like the Baby Bells?
Yeah, why not? What cheese is good? I mean, I don't know, dude. Which one do you like? I'm
down with Gouda.
Think of it this way, okay? Again, what you're doing when you're laying out an offering for a spirit is often for yourself. And it's to help you, like I've said in that last one with Jennifer Vazzo, I said that the incenses are as much, if not more, for you than the spirit, because they're a way for you to connect hieristically with the memory of ritual magic dealing with that spirit, I guess is the right way to put it. Yeah, but only to annoy us. Nice, Jen. Nice. Jennifer says, Belial may prefer goat cheese, but only to annoy Azazel. Cute. Very cute. Yeah, so whoever said Gouda, you guys get a cookie. So you guys get the cookie. You guys get the because that came out of nowhere. That was my first just intuitive response was Gouda. And I've got a refrigerator full of Gouda, so. All right, what do we got? Let's. We got like 2 more minutes. So we got any quickie last minute-y? Otherwise, we'll just do the wrap-up lingo. Anything that you think would be a quickie?
Hold on. Let me scan back up. We need like on hold music sometimes. I swear.
I could, or you could even do it. You just pump it through your.
Yeah, I definitely can. I gotta get it set up properly for that. There's probably some in here, and I'm probably scanning right over them. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm normally a lot better in the chat, but right now I feel very much like I gotta be one-on-one with you.
Well, you've been very engaged with me, so it's kind of hard, yeah. Oh, Hood Pun said, yes, that's exactly me, dude. You're exactly saying, that's exactly what I say. I guess I am like the ancient. Let me put my hair and like slowly get teleported up. That's exactly it. I'm not saying it's magic, but it's magic. You got me. That's a great meme to describe me. Absolutely.
I'll second that too. There's definitely times in the like especially early on before I tried any of this or anything. It's like, okay, yeah, tell me about the spirits. Okay, DH.
Fuck you.
It's magic.
It's magic.
Well, hey, I'm here now.
I must have convinced you.
It's just like Wildlands. Like, okay, I'll buy this. Stop telling me to fucking buy it. I'm just gonna buy it now. Oh wow, this is actually really fun. And even if I had and I've said this to one of my clients, and I'm gonna say it to you, and I say it to myself all the time. I said it to myself this morning. If magic wasn't real, would I still do it? And I said, abso-fucking-lutely I would. If I thought that magic didn't exist, would I still stand around in front of my altar and go bibbidi bobbidi boo and light candles and put incense out
and invoke the spiritual acting of a spirit and do all this, yes, I fucking would. And I wouldn't regret it, and I wouldn't lie about it. I'd tell you, nope, I don't think it's real, but I still love doing it. And I'm telling you, you need to approach magic with the same mindset. You have to. And I had a guy, I asked him very clearly, I said, if you found out tomorrow that doing magic did absolutely nothing, would you still do it? And he said, yes. I said, good, you're doing it right. You're doing it right. If you're doing it for results, you're doing it wrong. And I piss off so many fedora-wearing millennial mages today, the postmodernists who are like, oh, it's all about results. It's a science. Enjoy that act.
Fucking have fun with it.
But have fun with it, guys. Don't pretend that you're... Because I can enlist an elementary scientist and skeptic to come in, and they're going to blow shotgun blast holes through all of your little scientific magic theories. They're going to make you look like an idiot. Because and I don't mean that nastily as it sounds. I guess I am. There's my arrogance peeking through again. I don't like when people do that, because I've found that you're not going to prove magic as science. You're just not. If that's your goal, I think you're going to be sad. It's kind of, you know why? Because it's synonymous with denying suffering in a lot of ways. Because the reason why you want magic to be more than what it is because you don't recognize the glory that it already is. And you want it to be more than it is. You want to end the suffering, the pain of thinking magic isn't real. You want magic to be real so bad you're willing to make it anything. And to make it more than it is. But I'm telling you, magic is real. And when I say it's in your mind, it's not just in your mind, but it is in your mind. And accept that and embrace it and be happy with that and make that work for you. And I'm not saying you can't apply the scientific method to magic. I don't mean that. But don't think that magic is science that can be turned into technology that is... And they're going to say, well, I've got journals full of things that I can repeat and they work. And I can make any claim I want as well. But if I hook you up with a scientist and have you prove those claims, every time, without fail. So what am I saying? Am I saying magic isn't real? I'm not saying that. It's not magic, but it's totally magic. Got it? Good.
So, something just popped in my head, too. I think maybe it was the conspiracy thing earlier, talking about all the conspiracists. We were tossing around the whole AM coast-to-coast thing before. Do you want to talk about that on stream right now?
What was that? I'm kind of forgetting that.
Call-ins and such?
Oh, shit. We were going to do that, weren't we? I forgot.
But first, Tatum... Thank you, DH and Flesh Priest. Everyone, have a good time out there. Enjoy the donuts and the cheese.
The donuts and the cheese.
Appreciate you.
And the cheese. And let me tell you guys, because I'm on keto, it's like being a vegan. I've got to tell you about it all the fucking time. My wife and I found a way to make cheesecake. Actually, she found it and I just eat it. I'm like the Homer Simpson and she's the Marge. She found a way to make cheesecake that is indistinguishable to my taste, to my palate, from real cheesecake. In fact, it tastes better. And there's no sugar in it, no carbs at all whatsoever. Oh, we eat this shit like every night, and we are still not sick of it.
Go look up Camilla Random cheesecake.
Cheesecake.
And you'll see some hot keto cheesecake action.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think because EA was recently on Art Bell. Well, it wasn't Art Bell anymore. It's do they still call it Art Bell? No, they just call it Coast to Coast, right? Now it's what's his
Coast
name?
To Coast, yeah.
Coast to Coast with what's his fucking name? I like him too, but I can't think of his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that'll be definitely another level for me if I ever end up on a show like that. I think they'd have to turn me off because I'd have to be careful of my curses and being so obnoxious and Alex Jones like. I'd have to be more like Joe Rogan, guys. If you guys ever want to put me on XM or so, I have to be on XM because I have to be able to curse my brains out and say what's on my mind. I can't filter.
Well,
I can't do it. George Norrie, thank you, Tatum, thank you.
You were going a little bit of a different direction with that. We were talking about turning it into...
Call-ins.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that right now? Throw out the idea?
Yeah, I would actually... You're rapidly turning into like my assistant producer. So I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to make an action statement of some sort to remind us next week we'll do a call-in show, assuming we don't have a full ticket with like 25 guests. I think we should have a call-in show. Let me know in the comments if you guys would like. 'Cause we did it once with Patchwork. Patchwork called in. He's a cool guy. I'd have him call in again. Would you guys like for us to do a call-in show where, like, the last half hour or an hour or something, I put my my Skype handle up, or maybe Yepson's Skype handle up, or whatever, and we have you guys join the call for a minute without video. In fact, I would say no video unless, like I don't know, like I would rather just be audio, because for all I know, you're gonna pop up and just be, you know, you're gonna get my YouTube channel kicked.
A bit on Omegle, yeah, it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that would be a cool idea one of these weeks, to just have a live stream where all of you can pop into the Skype chat with us, ask questions, tell some stories, just make it a thing. I think it would be fucking cool.
And we could, like, mute people whose turn it's not, or something like that. Just have a call list waiting, and you can be the producer that just goes through the list and go, this person called in for. That's a cool idea. I would probably, I don't know if I would make it linked to super chats, because that's not what I'm all about. But if we get like 1,000 people trying to call in, we'd have to do something to prioritize them. Would it be first come, first serve? Would it be super chat? Maybe it would be first come, first serve, with super chat and Patreon getting a bump to the front.
I've had an idea of how to make it work. We could talk about that separately, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to know what people would want to hear on that, though. Stories, questions.
I would do through Discord source, except then I'd have to host all of this through Discord for setup reasons. And I'm not opposed to that. It's just, it would be a little bit harder to do, because I'd have to pump in different sources. So in other words, right now Yepson and I are talking through Skype, and then I'm taking that and I'm pumping his input through OBS and my own input through my microphone and stuff. However, everybody else would have to have access to that too, and Discord may or may not pick. It'd be just another thing I'd have to make work. So it would have to go through Skype, just for simplicity's sake, honestly.
We already have enough technical difficulties on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and it could be done. It's just I'm one guy, and I am a gigantic nerd, obviously, but I'm not that big a nerd. These aren't plastic rim glasses. I don't have the big ones. They don't have a crack, so I'm not quite there at that level. So I need a more alpha nerd. If any of you are alpha nerds and want to be my tech geek, I mean, that would be cool too. But I mean, I'm kind of like I don't know what you would be if not an alpha and a beta. I guess I'm like a gamma geek. But yeah. All right, so I guess we'll do the wrap up. But so we've got a pretty, I'm not gonna say unanimous, but we had a good number of people say yes, do a call-in show. So I think we'll do that, where I think we're gonna start next week. I would have done it this week if I had remembered. Next week, after at least an hour or so, be like, do you want to start the call-in segment? We'll start getting to these calls, that kind of thing, and we'll do it like that. So I think that'll be a good idea, especially if we don't have a lot of guests on. You know, if it's like me and JD, me and EA, something like that, we'll do it. If it's me, EA, JD, you, Zara, all these people, we got a full ticket. But if it's just me and you, or me, you, and one other person, I think that's a safe. No, I will not use Zoom. I like having my data private. Thank you. No, they all steal your data. They're all bullshit. But I'm not going to use Zoom. I hate Zoom. And besides, Zoom doesn't connect through OBS the way I want. It would be a recording. It wouldn't be this. So, yeah. So, all right. So let's do the wrap up. And I need to rest my voice, dude. Tomorrow night when we're playing Wildlands, I'm going to be like, go to the left. No, the left.
You're going to sound like how my character should, smoking all those Jankum cigars.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say this much, guys. If you're here and you haven't watched my last video or two, it's been a slow week for views. What the hell? Go back, watch them shits. The Nyarlathotep story was from the Dream Cycle stuff that he did. It was the 7th story in the Dream Cycle, and it was based on a literal dream Lovecraft had. And it's the first story about Nyarlathotep. It's kind of a trippy story about a dude who goes and sees the guy, and I won't tell you the rest because it's short. It's a shorter story, but it's pretty cool. Today's video was one of my favorites, but I think it gets overlooked because I find that my favorite videos people don't like. I don't know why. People want to hear about the spirits. They don't want to hear how to do it. So I don't know why that is. But I think this was a good video, and check it out. It's got some useful techniques in it, and the people who watched it all liked it. They all definitely liked it. So check that one out. And if you're new here and you don't think I'm a giant jerk for being arrogant and self-centered and all these other things that most people think, please go down into the description of this video or the first comment when I get around to putting it there. There will be links to various ways you can support me. If you like what I'm saying and you want to read about it, I've got 3 books. I've got Become the Maelstrom, I've got Shadownomicon, and I've got the Infernal Vampire's Handbook. In that order, those are the 3 I released. I would recommend you always purchase Become the Maelstrom first, because that is the core rule book of all of my magic. Everything I do is best described through that lens, and even though I've moved on from some of those practices, I still stand by everything in that book as being a valid way to start. After that, everything is for more advanced stuff. I have Patreon. I have Subscribestar for those of you who don't like the issues with Patreon, and where they censor people and stuff. Subscribestar doesn't. I have a BitChute account, which you should follow me on because YouTube does censor. BitChute doesn't. And then other than that, what else do I have? Geez, I got my Teespring. I've got... Oh, if you want services or mentorship, go to mindtheshadows.com and you will see links to how you can get a hold of me so we can do that. If you need ritual services, I always do everything through consult first. I don't do rituals without talking to you. I don't waste my energy on people just sending me money. I hate that. You can't buy me. I have to want to help you before I'll take your money. So we have to talk first. I have to decide that your energy is worth my effort and that you're going to follow through with your end of stuff. But yes, everyone loves my buy my crap things. Well, I got scolded for it once. Like, you don't sell crap, you sell good stuff.
Are we not all just the universe's crap?
We are. We're the tulpa of the universe in the wonderland that's created for itself.
And I'm gonna plug the Teespring too. I just got these bad little motherfuckers in.
Well, those aren't for profit. Those are for a project. And if you don't know what that project is,
Shadowgate.
Yeah, and some people gave me pushback for that, and they can go fuck themselves. But Shadowgate's an important thing that we're doing, voluntary, of course, and there's no buy-in. It's literally a public project that has now gone underground a little bit. We got about 30 people participating, give or take. I think it's like 25 or 30. I have to double check, and we're moving forward in the dark a little bit necessarily. So, but we'll be making announcements about it again soon, for those who are interested. But yes, I have. If you like this guy, I don't know if you guys can. Yeah, you guys can see that, right?
You also got a new tank top on there, which I just ordered because that seems to be my every week thing. Maybe next week I'll be a little bit more on brand, repping at EA this week.
What the hell, dude? You're wearing a competitor's brand. He's not a competitor. We're all in the same boat.
He's my friend. God damn it!
I'll be like, dude, you got to give me like 5 cents because we showed your thing on a chat. We showed your thing on a video chat. You got to pay me now. He'll be like, okay. No, he won't. Yeah. All right, guys. So I'm running out of steam, but thank you so much for coming and showing me your support. I know there wasn't as many people tonight, and I'm still wondering about it. But somebody had said because it's school just started and then Labor Day and all that, I get it. Oh, I want to give a shout out to JD. Tomorrow night, JD and EA are going to be on JD's channel, so check that out. They're going to have a talk tomorrow, and I hear it's going to be wild. So if you guys like seeing them being wild, that would be a good show. I probably won't pop on, but I may pop in the chat for 5 minutes to show my support. But I got plans tomorrow night probably.
Yeah, fuck, I might pop over in there too. I got plans too, but
yeah, we could always pop in and troll them for 5 minutes and like send them some super chats, and then like do super chats with dicks on them and be like.
Yeah, so you guys should go and watch that tomorrow for the chance that you see us fucking dicking with both of those guys.
Right? And I would love to do... Now, JD's a machine. He fucking live streams like every day. I don't have it in me to live stream every day. I really don't. I got too much stuff on my plate. But who knows? At some point, I may do some more last-minute surprise streams during the week if I'm bored or I can't think of a regular video to do. Because at some point, you cover all these topics so much, it's like, what didn't I talk about that I can make a video about? So if I get bored, I might just make another stream. So for you guys, but yeah.
So as always, you guys have been great. I look forward to being more active in the chat for the next round. So you guys are fucking awesome, and we appreciate you every single week.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Elric. Thank you, Necro Nick. I can't even say Necro Nikki. Thank you, D Phoenix. Thank you, Source Adversary. We'll check you all next week, or maybe sooner. Surprise, surprise. We'll find out.
Fucking hail yourselves.
Hail yours. I love that. I do that too. My fingers aren't as long. I can't do it. I stopped that right now.